Good evening. Please be seated. Welcome to this meeting of full council. I am Councillor Faye Howard, the Mayor of Swindon. There are no practice alarms planned, so if we hear an evacuation alarm this evening, we will leave the building immediately. Please follow the officers via the nearest exit in reception and assemble in the car park between Wat Tyler West and Clarence House. We will adjourn the meeting until such time as it's safe to proceed. For those that want the Wi-Fi password, it is success, goals, welcome, all lowercase and all one word. Please can you remember to switch on your microphones when invited to speak and switch it off when you've finished. And please can I all ask that everybody switches their devices onto silent. Please note too that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed via YouTube. And I'd like to thank any members of the public who have joined us in the chamber, welcome, or watching at home. I'm sure members will join me in making sure that we provide the best window on our local democracy. Now, it is with sadness that I report the passing of Mr. Stephen Taylor, the Council's former Director of Legal and Democratic Services and Monitor Officer. I would like to request that you join me in a minute's silence as a mark of respect to Stephen, who worked for our Council for 22 years and was known to many of us. All please stand. Thank you very much. We'll then begin with item agenda 1, which are the apologies for absence. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have had apologies for absence from Councillor Princia Fernandez, Councillor Marianne Lacoit-Grinny, Councillor Jamal Mia, Councillor Adam Poole and Councillor Imtiaz Sheikh.
Any further apologies from the floor? Yes?
Sorry, unless I missed it, Councillor Suresh Gatapur gave his apologies.
Noted. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is communications. The Chief Executive, will you please report any correspondence received?
Yeah, there's a lot in this period. Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 1st of December, I received an email from a letter from Matthew Pennycook MP, the Minister of State for Housing and Planning, relating to service charges on retirement properties in response to the letter from the leader as a direct response from Council. On the 3rd of October, I received a letter from Steve Reid MP, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, about the response to the Manchester attack and support for communities in that regard. On the 15th of October, I received a response from Simon Lightwood MP around illegal e-bikes, again in response to a motion to Council. On the 30th of October, I received a letter from Miata Fanbula MP, the Minister for Devolution, Faith and Communities, outlining the launch of the British Muslim Trust helpline service aimed at supporting victims of anti-Muslim hate, which has been passed on to colleagues in the Council. On the 6th of November, I received a letter from the Right Honourable Shabana Mahmood and Right Honourable Steve Reid around the Winter of Action relating to the Safer Streets mission. On the 7th of November, I received a letter from Matthew Pennycook MP, Minister of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, relating to the launch of the Social and Affordable Homes Programme. On the 13th of November, I received a letter from Baroness Tricross, the Minister for Museums, Heritage and Gambling, relating to the publication of the UK Government's response to the COVID Commemoration Commission. On the 14th of November, I received a letter from directors in MHCLG outlining the implementation of the Renters' Right Act. On the 20th of November, I received a letter from Bridget Phillipson MP, Secretary of State for Education, outlining the Best Start local plans, funding and our national growth target for children. On the 21st of November, I received a letter from Stephen Kinnock MP, the Minister of State for Care, outlining the adult social care funding, fee rates and assurance. On the 24th of November, I received a letter from the Right Honourable Alison McGovern MP, the Minister of State for Local Government and Homelessness, outlining the consolidation in the local government finance settlement of domestic abuse duty funding. On the 27th, is that today? 27th of November, I received a letter from MHCLG confirming the Council's new burdens funding for the implementation of the Renters' Right Act mentioned earlier. And also today I received a letter from Matthew Pennycook, Minister of State for Housing and Planning, outlining local plan making reforms. I will make sure all of those letters are sent out in the minutes. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder to agree the minutes of the meeting that we held on the 25th of September 25, and they're on pages 17 to 28 of the agenda pack. Can these be approved as a true record? We've got a mover.
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
And a seconder.
I'll second, please, Madam Mayor.
Brilliant. I put it that the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September 2025 be approved as a true record. Can I have all those in favour? Brilliant, that looks unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. I declare that carried. So moving on to the next agenda item, which is declarations of interest. Councillors should declare any known interest in any matter to be considered in line with the new Code of Conduct from September the 1st. You should make any declaration should it become apparent during the meeting that you have an interest in any matter being discussed. Is there anybody wishing to make a declaration of interest? No? Okay, we'll raise something later if it comes up. That's cool, thank you. Moving on to then public question time. Welcome everybody, member of the public. We do give 15 minutes for public questions, and if we run out of time, any questions that are yet being received answers will be written responses will be sent following the meeting. May I remind members of the public that any question should be clear, relevant and concise. Any supplementary questions asked following responses provided by the Cabinet member should be to clarify the response provided and not to introduce anything new. Public question time is not an opportunity to make speeches or statements. This will ensure that everyone gets their opportunity to ask the questions. Questions must not deal with confidential, personal or other information which the law permits the Council to deal with in private, nor should it relate to any specific planning application. First of all, we will consider submissions that were received in writing prior to the meeting. Mr. Redgwell, I understand that you've submitted 5 questions. You've had a written response for the questions, and we're offering you one supplementary question, and we can come back to further supplementary questions if we've time at the end.
That's fine. So my supplementary question is on devolution. I welcome the work on devolution that Swindon Borough Council is doing with Oxfordshire, hopefully Unitary Oxford and Unitary Oxford County and Unitary Oxford City and Berkshire. But as an organisation that supports bus franchising, and we know that you're looking at that as well, and devolution of the rail services in the way Andy Burnham does in Greater Manchester, we're acutely aware also there needs to be an arrangement with the travel to work here, which will be North Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. It's sad to say there's parts of this borough where the last bus at night is 6:10, and I think that's shocking. That's out to, let's say, towards Cricklade. So all I'd ask is, are we looking and working to find a solution that makes sure we do take into account of how we work across the border, particularly with Gloucestershire and Wiltshire, so we get the travel to work here as well as the prize of Oxfordshire and the health area as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the Cabinet member respond.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Redgwell. I think you're entirely right that that service that is provided isn't enough for some of our residents. And whilst obviously we welcome the move towards devolution and the role that, that the extra powers that gives us in light of strategic transport, it's really important that we don't lose sight of all of the different connections that Swindon has. One of the reasons that we're looking at the different options for devolution is because Swindon is on the edge of a number of different areas, and it's really important that we have the best possible transport links in all of those directions. And certainly by moving into hopefully a devolution agreement with the Thames Valley, that doesn't preclude us from doing that work with any of the other regions to make sure that travel links are as good as they can possibly be.
Thank you very much. The next written submission question was from Councillor Julia Murphy from Highworth Town Council. Councillor Murphy is unable to join us tonight. Her questions and the responses are on the Council's website. And the next written submission was Mr. Marco De Pinto, who submitted 5 questions, and I believe you're present. So if you would like to ask one question, and if we get the chance, we'll come back with further questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to seek a clarification from the Honourable Member from Highways regarding improvements to the highways in Lower Stratton. Will the Cabinet Member be convening further highways meetings with the Lower Stratton councillors so that matters like payment, parking and traffic regulation orders and other highways improvements can be discussed and prioritised?
First of all, Mr. De Pinto, thank you for referring to me as the Honourable Member. I don't think that's ever happened to anyone in here before. Essentially, as far as with the position we're in with highways at the moment, as you're probably aware, we have a small budget of roughly £5 million a year, and we have a backlog of about 50 million, which has been accumulated over a large period of time, which puts us into a position where we can create what's called a local transport plan, an LTP, over 3 years, which is currently being funded hand to mouth because we've only ever got 1 year's funding while we speculatively work to see what we might get in the other years. And that makes it incredibly difficult to plan. I'm hoping very soon we will get our new funding model through, and I'm hoping to see that in the next couple of weeks. And I know the government was trying to look at giving us a 3-year plan, and I'm really hoping that we get incremental changes to that plan, which allows us to increase our highways staff to start getting to grips with this backlog and also getting to grips with a lot of issues and problems that have been raised over the last 5, 6, 7 years that are just sitting there waiting for money and resources to be able to address those. So at this moment in time, what I would say is that the position is I'm really waiting for this to find out what our plan is going to be in the next few weeks and how we can actually then distribute this money and hopefully start ramping up through the LTP and start addressing these problems that have been raised over many years. Okay.
Thank you very much. We've also had a written submission from Mr. Clive Britton, which was received after the deadline, but the details of the submission have been published on the website. Can I invite the Cabinet Member to please respond?
Right, so I've been in contact with regards to Southampton. I've been in contact with your councillors. I've seen all your requests that come through. I understand the issue in Southampton has been going on for 8 years, where you've been trying to get a resolution for this. At this time, I think the meeting that I've had with your councillors, I explained that we are looking at delivering speed restrictions in a different way. For example, we're continuing to do the 20-mile-an-hour areas, which is the signage and the roundels, but the 20-mile-an-hour zones, which are incredibly expensive to put in place, and questionably the effect of those 20-mile-an-hour zones are not as effective as they should be. We've now been looking at using technology, as I've explained to other people, using ANPR cameras, which is a fraction of the cost, but hopefully gets better results. Now, the concern I've got with Southampton when I put the update to your councillors is that the response that we've got is that your main concern isn't speed. Your main concern is the number of vehicles going through and also the size of vehicles and HGVs. Now, unfortunately, when we're working through a plan for 20-mile-an-hour speed limits and actually trying to bring those speeds down, volume of traffic and size of traffic isn't a material consideration in this. And I understand that people are upset that if we're not putting in the build-outs, that that won't affect that. Well, that was never going to affect that. What I really need to do is I really need to find out why the people of Southampton, I've had several emails, believe that putting in this 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, even with build-outs, was going to affect the volume of traffic and was also going to dissuade heavy goods vehicles going through when there's already a weight limit on the road anyway. It doesn't make sense to me, and I'd like to try and investigate that further, why that has been brought forward. Why do the people of Southampton believe that is the case when that's patently not the case? So I am going to continue with the 20-mile-an-hour area, and it has been prioritised, and we are working with officers at the moment to go through alpha trials and beta trials of using AMPR cameras, which essentially target those who speed and will not target the people who are essentially driving carefully. And that programme will continue, and I've supplied a timeline to your ward councillors, who I think the ward councillors have shared it with you and shared with the parish council. But there is certainly confusion about the expectation of the people of Southampton as to what they thought they were going to get from going through a programme of reducing that speed to 20 miles an hour, whether that's a 20-mile-an-hour area or a 20-mile-an-hour zone.
Thank you. Mr. Britton, do you have any further supplementary question?
Oh, there you go. Good evening. Thank you for your response, Councillor Watts. Your proposal for speed cameras is a great start, and we thank you. The main problem is it won't actually. Yes, you're right. In certain parts of the village, speeding is impossible because of the narrow roads and everything. But sometimes coming down and going up the hills, the speeding goes up, and going north to Southampton, that's still in the village. So speeding is an area to be considered, but it is the huge volume of traffic that comes through. I mean, if you set your Google sat-nav from Watchfield to South Marston Industrial Estate, it recommends going through to Southampton, which is a sort of a saving of about at least 6 minutes. The alternative route is through Highworth, which I know the Labour MP, Mr. Will Stone, was campaigning against heavy traffic going through that road. You know, it isn't even suggesting going round Gable Cross because of all the congestion near the police station with all the traffic lights there. If the council wants further proof of speeding, you only have to look at the cost of replacing the road signs. I know that the road sign 1.5 miles outside our village has come down yet again after you've only replaced it 2 or 3 months ago. And also I noticed that the road is beginning to break apart, and you are sending council people to mend the edges of the road.
Could I move you on to the question? I'm just aware we've only got 5 more minutes of public questions.
Okay, well, it is a big issue, this. I'm just saying that there is speed, it is a volume of traffic, and just on a final point, there's 300 houses being built at Ragbarn, and they will all be using the C142 to gain access to Swindon and the M4.
Thank you very much. Councillor Watts, if there's a question there, please do answer it.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. Is that, sorry, Mr. Britton, is it?
Yes.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Britton. Yeah, so there's no dispute that there is an issue with speeding going through there, and that's what we're addressing. Shall I just let you get back to your seat, sir? Sorry. You all right? Okay. Yeah, so there's no disputing that, and that's essentially what we're focusing on. I say the problem being is that the responses I've had back, it's not just speeding, that the disappointment is that there was a belief that by putting build-outs in that somehow that would stop the traffic. Actually, you raise a good point. Maybe there's something we need to do from a GPS point of view, in that we need to see if we can apply to those companies and essentially say, can you put this not as a preferred route? That's something I can bring up with officers to see if that's possible to do. But from the point of view of what we're working to reduce the speeding going through there, the volume of traffic and the use of that road, that would be something completely different. Bearing in mind, you've also got farm vehicles that have to go through there as well at the same time, so we would have to be very careful with that.
I think that I encourage you two to continue this dialogue outside of this meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Okay. Would you like to leave your details? And I'm quite happy to have a discussion with you with the permission of your ward councillors if you want to talk about it further afterwards. Okay, thank
Sounds
you.
a plan.
Cheers.
Is there any further members of the public? We've got about 3 minutes left. Do you want to come to the microphone? And just bear in mind there's a number of questions.
Yes, thank you. My question is about Eldine Drive. Eldine Drive is in a very poor state with deep potholes and the surface breaking up in several locations. It's not scheduled to be repaired until the financial year of 27-2028. Given that's likely 2 winters away with all the impact that has on the roads, I'm not sure the road surface is going to hold up for that long. I was asking the member for Highways and the council to consider bringing repairs forwards into the new financial year, and to carry out urgent repairs of the worst affected spots.
Thank you. Do we have a... Just could we take your name for the minutes, please?
Apologies, it's Zach Hawson. I did say at the start. My apologies.
Hello, Mr. Hawson. Hope you're keeping well. I had a similar message to me recently, and I did drive down Eldine Drive. And there is a situation where there is not so much potholes. A pothole that needs to be, that's designated a pothole that needs urgent repair is something that's 40 millimetres or more. What's happened on Eldine Drive, it's more a case of the surface has come up. So it's not a pothole, it's a surface come up. So it doesn't look great, but it's not a pothole. Now, as far as I discussed, as I said earlier with one of the previous questions, we do have a situation where we have a huge backlog, indicative figure of £50 million with roughly a £5 million a year budget to try and deal with that, which we're trying to deal with that by changing the ways that we address these issues, trying to transform the service. Now, as far as the priorities are concerned, the priorities are really set by our officers and our engineers who are looking at the roads, the ones that are in the worst condition, end up in the 3-year plan. And it's fair to say, and I fully understand that as far as the 3-year plan is concerned, that it is in a position where all those roads in the 3-year plan should probably have already been done. But this is a backlog that's built up over many years. Now, the only hope we have really to try and continue to try and bring that backlog down is that we get more money to basically address this highway backlog. And I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have some information on what that funding is going to be, and I hope that funding is going to be over a longer period than just hand to mouth. So I can't say to you, no, that I'm going to go and ask for that to be brought forward a year within the local plan, because I'm not an engineer and it's not for me to decide what the priorities are for roads. That comes through them, and we're just using the money that we have to the best way we can.
Thank you very much. We're coming very quickly to the end of our 50 minutes, but I'll take these 2 questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question about planning enforcement. I mean, do we actually have any? Because it doesn't seem that we do. We've had a problem with the build-up where we are, all sorts of problems throughout this year with working outside hours, unsafe practices, actions outside of the initial planning proposal. The residents have made repeated queries to planning enforcement, making complaints about what's happening, and we have received nothing, not even an acknowledgement and no enforcement practice.
Thank you very much. If we could just get your name for the minutes, and then
Brian
we'll let the
Dickinson.
lead member answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Your name again?
Brian Dickinson.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I didn't have sight of this question ahead of time, I'm afraid. So I will get back to you in writing if you leave your details with the committee officer. Thank you. We do have an enforcement department. It does have a backlog. It has very complex processes, statutory processes it needs to follow. But let's continue this discussion when I'm more fully briefed on what the question was. Thank you.
Thank you. And one final question. And could you please give us your name?
Yeah, it's Marie Haley. I've got a problem with the housing repairs from the Swindon Borough. I currently have major problems with my bathroom. Don't know if you can see these pictures. I've sent pictures. I've had surveyor after surveyor over. They log it. They say I need a new wet room. I've got 5 children in the house. I've got a disabled mum. I've got literally mould and damp everywhere. When I speak to the surveyors,
If we could just have a question, and by all means do pass those on to the lead
I've
member.
waited so long. When is it going to get done?
Good question. Okay. Can I pass that over to the lead member to
Yeah.
answer? Thank you.
I don't know. You say you've written into the department. I don't know of it. If you write into me, I'll make sure that you get a proper reply and that it's seen to. So if you leave your details with somebody, I will make sure you're responded to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are you able to switch the microphone up while you're there, please? Thank you. Thank you very much, so many members of the public, for being here. And if there are further questions, please do continue the conversations outside. We definitely want to continue to hear from you. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the allocation of seats to political groups, numbers to serve on committees, and appointments to committees, other bodies, and outside bodies. I would draw members' attention to the revised and updated report that was circulated to you all earlier today. It has been published in the supplementary pack on the Council's website. The version of recommendations we are therefore being asked to consider is set out in the revised and updated report and Appendix 1 pack. Please, can I have a mover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the agreement of Council, I'd like to move the amended report and appendix which have been circulated and published on the Council's website.
Is the Council happy to accept the amended report and appendix? Wave at me. Cool. A few people waving. That's great. Is there a seconder, please?
Yes, I'll second that, please.
Are there any further appointment changes or that the political groups want? Yes, Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. Can I add in Councillor Mike Davis to the Appointments Committee, Councillor Neil Hopkins and Mike Davis to the Licensing Committee, and Councillor Neil Hopkins to the Plas-Penkethly Committee, please?
Any further changes? No. I put it to the vote then that the recommendation as moved. Can I have all those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I declare that carried. Let's carry on this way. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is minutes for confirmation. I would draw members' attention to the Cabinet minute pages on 78 to 87, no, scrap that, 48 backwards 47 of the agenda pack and the accompanying report and appendices in the background papers pack. There is 1 minute of confirmation to consider. Is there a proposer and seconder for minute 39 of the Cabinet Swindon Youth Justice Service Strategic Plan 25 to 26 that be confirmed and adopted, please?
Madam Mayor, I propose.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I second, please?
Brilliant. Does any members wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. Can I just urge all members and anyone who is here or watching online to please listen to the recent Radio 4 documentary about our Youth Justice Service. The programme was outstanding, setting out the work that the Youth Justice team does and the really exciting work they do with the coffee van outside. Well worth a listen and hopefully something we can all be really proud of here in Swindon.
Thank you. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is it possible for a link to be circulated? Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm sure we can arrange that. Any other okay. Nobody else is indicating. I put it to the vote, therefore, that minute 39 of the Cabinet Swindon Youth Justice Service Strategic Plan 25 to 26 be confirmed and adopted. All those in favour, please show. Fantastic. Brilliant. I declare that vote carried. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is motions. We do have 9 motions, of which notice was given. Can I invite Councillor Robbins to move the first motion on devolution, please?
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Do we have a seconder for this motion?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Robbins, will you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Hopefully colleagues will be reassured that when there's so many motions, I do not intend to take 10 minutes with this speech. Today we're about to debate what I believe is probably the most important motion to come forward in my time as a councillor. It is about the future prosperity of Swindon and our ability to shape that rather than have it shaped for us. Before I begin, I want to thank colleagues across all of the parties for their constructive discussions and the support shown to this motion. It's a real moment for collaboration across the town. The government's devolution bill is transforming local government. It offers new powers over transport, skills, housing and economic development to mayoral authorities. The areas that seize these opportunities will gain influence, investment and the ability to plan strategically for decades ahead. Those who don't risk being left behind. Swindon is a thriving town with a proud industrial heritage and a dynamic economy. Just last week, we celebrated the opening of Stark's new facility, a cutting-edge drone manufacturer creating skilled jobs and reinforcing our reputation for innovation. But let's be clear, the major funding streams and infrastructure investment in this country are increasingly directed to our devolved regions. Greater Manchester, the West Midlands, West Yorkshire and others have already secured hundreds of millions of pounds for transport, housing and innovation. If we remain outside this framework, we will struggle to compete. And it was clear from watching the budget yesterday that a lot of that investment money is still being targeted through these regional areas, and we need to make sure that Swindon is not missing out on this. The reason that we're looking towards the Thames Valley is because it makes economic sense. This region is one of the UK's powerhouses, generating 117 billion in GVA and accounting for 5% of the UK's economy with only 4% of its population. By linking Swindon's strengths with Oxfordshire and Berkshire, we can create deeper labour markets, stronger supply chains and faster innovation. Independent analysis suggests this integration could boost local economic output by £18.7 billion annually by 2040 and help Swindon regain its title as the fastest growing town in Europe. Some people have asked, why aren't we looking towards Wiltshire? The answer is simple. While we remain proud of our Wiltshire roots and will continue to work closely with our neighbours, it is clear that our economic future lies in the east. The Thames Valley offers unparalleled opportunities for growth, connectivity and investment. Its innovation clusters and infrastructure links align perfectly with Swindon's ambitions to be a hub for advanced manufacturing and technology. The opportunities that the Thames Valley offers in terms of a complex economy far outweigh the offers that would come from being part of the Wessex area. It's really important to say that this is not about losing local control. Swindon will continue to deliver local services, housing, social care, planning decisions, while the mayoral authority focuses on strategic issues such as our strategic transport links, skills development and major infrastructure. It'll be a partnership that amplifies our voice, not diminishes it. So I want to finish by just saying us submitting an expression of interest is the first step. It opens the door to discussions with the government and then ultimately consultation with the public. This is about our ambition for Swindon, about ensuring that we are part of the conversation, not just watching from the sidelines. So please, let us commit today, not only to this motion, but to continue working together on a cross-party basis. I hope that we can meet at scrutiny on Monday to think about the key asks for Swindon and how we take this forward and where we can focus our new powers for the most impact. Let's make sure that Swindon leads, not lags. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sumner, do you wish to speak now or reserve to speak later?
I'll speak now if I may, Madam Mayor. The Thames Valley proposal is a significant thing for Swindon. Slough, Reading and Swindon are the big anchors for the devolution proposal along the M4 corridor. And I think Swindon is strategically one of the most important assets to this group. We have not only the east-west links along the M4 corridor, but with the Birdlip bypass, we could see that important logistics corridor favour the journey to Swindon rather than Bristol. The government have made it clear, including, as the leader has said, in yesterday's budget, that mayoral authorities will be provided with significant funding. Swindon needs not only improved rail links, but also the A420 as a brake on growth, and that will benefit Swindon and Oxfordshire. It remains to be seen when this will happen and if it will happen at pace. Given the unpopularity of the Labour government, they may not want to see elections for these large-scale authorities testing their own ability to win. However, for now, and this is not a final decision, as the leader has said, we see greater economic benefit to Swindon in this proposal, as nothing else of substance was shown as an alternative. So I welcome working with the leader and his party on a cross-party basis and fully support this expression of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I formally open up the debate. Is there any members that wish to speak? Councillor Butcher.
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief, but just to say, yes, we are also in support of this as a Green Group for acknowledging the same reasons as stated by Councillors Robbins and Sumner, particularly around the economic argument, and look forward to seeing the more detail as it comes forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Anybody else wishing to speak? There's plenty of opportunity to speak later, so that's fine. So if there's no other people invited to speak, then are we content to agree the motion devolution? Can I have all those in favour, please? Fantastic. That's carried unanimous. Fantastic. Let's keep this going. Brilliant. Well done, everybody. I declare that one carried then. Fantastic. So, motion B, pride in place and trailblazer investment into Walcott and Pen Hill. Can I invite Councillor Amin to move the second motion, please?
I move, Madam Mayor.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Borman, thank you. Councillor Amin, could you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I am delighted with the government's recent announcement to award £20 million of funding towards Walcott from the Pride in Place project and a further £20 million towards Pen Hill from the Trailblazer programme. Walcott and Pen Hill are considered some of the most deprived areas in the borough. I've been speaking to residents in my ward of Walcott, and they have responded very positively to this announcement. The investment has the potential to enhance the local area and the lives of the residents who live there in a sustainable and meaningful way. I feel that the residents of both Walcott and Pen Hill will be best placed to provide insight as to their challenges and what their communities are lacking. Therefore, I request that the Council organises a few of the Let's Talk Walcott and Let's Talk Pen Hill events to gain valuable feedback from the residents and shape some ideas on potential best uses of these funds. Apart from that, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude towards Heidi Alexander, MP for South Swindon, and Will Stone for their excellent work in securing such valuable funds. These grants have opened up a great opportunity for meaningful improvements across both areas. I'd also like to request that the leader of the Council, that's the Secretary of State for MH, CLG and local MPs, to thank them for the funding and works with MPs to set up the neighbourhood boards in their constituencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Borman, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak later?
I'll speak now, Madam Mayor, if I may. And I would like to focus mainly on Pen Hill, which is the area I know best. So, Madam Mayor, when we talk about Trailblazer neighbourhood funding, it's easy to focus on strategy, process and numbers. But at its heart, and this is really the important bit, it's about people. The most important level of this work is at a human level. Any improvements we plan for Pen Hill must be shaped not just by what we think they need, but what the residents tell us what matters to them. It's their lived experience, their priorities, and their hopes have to guide us. If we press ahead without truly listening, without engaging openly, consistently, and with respect, then we don't just risk making the wrong decisions, we risk losing something much bigger, the trust, identity, and a sense of belonging within the community. By responding to concerns, supporting aspirations, and ensuring that every resident feels heard, we honour the very principles that Trailblazer programme was designed to uphold. This funding is here to support communities as they shape the future of their neighbourhoods, to enable improvements that people can see and feel outside of their front doors, to encourage participation and to strengthen community, connection and cohesion. So let's be clear, Madam Mayor, this is not just another initiative. It's not just about a line in a budget. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And for many people living in Pen Hill, for families who've seen in the past promises come and promises go, this moment really matters. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I formally open the debate. Are there any other members that wish to speak? Councillor Bushell and then Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also wanted to take this opportunity to record my excitement at the significant investment into Penhill and Walcott. I'm going to echo many of the points my colleagues have already made, starting by adding my thanks to Heidi Alexander MP for helping securing this funding for Walcott, and to Will Stone MP for his help in securing the funding in Penhill, as well as to the government. I'll focus briefly on Walcott, which I have represented for the last 10 years. It's a strong and proud community with its roots in post-war development, which attracted many residents to Swindon, but it's also an incredibly diverse community where many residents have chosen to make their home over the last few years. It's generously endowed with green spaces, and it's where Nationwide has chosen to build its flagship development, Sustainable Homes. There is so much potential in the community, but for a long period of time it hadn't received the investment required to meet its needs. And as colleagues have said, one of the most exciting and important aspects of the Pride in Place and Trailblazer proposals is the way that local people have been placed right at the centre of decision making. Local people know best how this money should best be spent for their benefit and the benefit of their communities. Like Abdul, I've already had a couple of residents get in contact with their ideas about how to spend the money, and that's fantastic. I'm desperate to get this money out into the community ASAP so it can start to make that difference for residents. But it is important that we take the time to get the proper frameworks in place to make sure the money is spent for maximum benefit. We will need to put a lot of effort in the coming months to ensure the community board is set up effectively, to build the correct governance frameworks, and to ensure that as many local residents as possible are able to feed in their views. So I'm really looking forward to the prospect of working with council officers, our MPs, community leaders and residents in the crucial foundation stages over the next few months. And like Abdul, I'm particularly excited about the prospect of holding a Let's Talk Walcott event in the new year, seeing something similar in Penhill. So lots of work to do, lots to look forward to, but for now I just wanted to celebrate this significant investment in Walcott and Penhill and Swindon as well.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'd like to welcome this grant and thank the people involved. There is one part of Swindon which hasn't traditionally received much money from government grants into poverty and other things, that is Toot Hill. So I'd like to see the council do more about getting grant money into Toot Hill, just as a local resident and a ward member. Also, from Toot Hill, we've learnt over the last 15 years, be careful about what you do in appointing certain residents to make decisions, because cliques can form, and those cliques don't put in proper consultation, and they make decisions based on their own interests and maybe not on the best interests for the community. So I'd say put in the checks and balances and making sure you get a broad selection of residents and not just the usual suspects with the loudest voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? No? So, Councillor Amin, did you want to come back?
No, I think it seems that we are going to get some support, so let's go to the vote.
Sounds good. So is the council content to agree the motion Pride in Place and Trailblazer investment in Walcott and Penhill? Can I have all those in favour, please? Okay, that looks unanimous. Brilliant, thank you very much. I declare that one carried too. Excellent. Moving on to motion C, dying in poverty, Marie Curie. Can I invite Councillor Stanker Wilson to move this motion, please?
I would like to move the motion.
Do we have a seconder for the motion?
I'll be moving, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Stanker Wilson, would you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last month marked 2 years since I lost my beloved mum to terminal illness. Her passing was sudden, unexpected, and deeply painful. I vividly remember the phone call telling me she was approaching the end of her life and needed care. In that moment, I thought of nothing else but reaching her as quickly as possible, to be by her side, to hold her hand, and make final memories together. Losing my mum so early in my life profoundly changed me and my outlook on the world. I had never given much thought to dying before, but now I see it as an inevitable part of life, a cycle that cannot be changed. However, what can be changed are the memories we create in those final moments with our loved ones. This experience made me realize the broader impact of terminal illness on families in our community. When a Haydenwick resident asked me to support Marie Curie's campaign to help those households that are pushed into poverty due to terminal illness of a family member, I felt compelled to act, and then I did not hesitate to put forward this motion, which aims to support those who are fighting terminal illness. Madam Mayor, Marie Curie's research has shown that a terminal diagnosis can significantly reduce household income. Families are often unable to work, and at the same time, costs such as energy bills, childcare, and medications frequently rise. The latest research reveals that 111,000 people die in poverty every year in this country. While these numbers are alarming on their own, the impact is much wider. Poverty also has a profound and long-lasting impact on the dying person's household and others close to them. It is essential that people facing terminal illness are able to spend their final days making precious memories with loved ones, rather than worrying about how to pay the bills or manage debts that may burden those they leave behind. While the responsibility for addressing poverty at the end of life lies with the government, local councillors also have the power to make a meaningful difference for those most in need. Therefore, the Council is asked to request that the Policy and Performance Committee, Build a Fairer Swindon, reviews the Council Tax Support Scheme to ensure that households, including those with someone living with a terminal illness, receive adequate support. The Council is also asked to investigate whether this group of residents can be prioritised for other discretionary support schemes, such as the forthcoming Crisis and Resilience Fund. Through losing the person who gave me life, I became more aware of the life cycle itself. While we create memories with our loved ones throughout our lives, it is especially important for those facing terminal illness to have the opportunity to do so in their final months and days without the added stress of financial hardship. These are the memories that remain with us, their relatives, until our last days, the cycle of life. I hope that councillors in this chamber will support this motion, helping to ensure that those final memories are a little bit brighter for residents and their families in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ali, do you wish to speak now or later?
I would like to speak now, Madam Mayor, if that's okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm really pleased to second this motion brought forward by Councillor Stanker-Wilson. Colleagues, how we support people at the end of life is a reflection of our values as a community. Those final months and weeks should be a time for dignity, for peace, and for being with loved ones. Not a time dominated by financial fear. But Marie Curie's latest research shows a deeply worrying trend. In 2022, 90,000 people died in poverty. Today, that number has risen to 111,000, a 23% increase. Behind every one of those cases is a family in distress during the most difficult period of their lives. Terminal illness often forces households into financial crisis. Income drops sharply. Costs soar. Energy bills, transport, childcare, specialist equipment, and the pressure affects not only the person who is ill, but unpaid carers too. Up to 750,000 people provide unpaid end-of-life care each year. Around 15% live in poverty, and that figure jumps to 32% after bereavement. While many of the necessary national changes sit with the UK government, we cannot ignore that. We can influence locally. We have a responsibility to ensure that people in Swindon facing terminal illness are not pushed into deeper hardship by our own systems. That is why this motion matters. It's asked the Build a Fairer Swindon Policy and Performance Committee to review our council tax support scheme to make sure households with someone who's terminally ill receives the support they truly need. And it asks that we explore how this group can be prioritized for other discretionary help, including the new Crisis and Resilience Fund. These are practical, compassionate steps. They don't require major resources, but they could make an enormous difference to a family struggling right now under the weight of illness and financial strain. Colleagues, we may not be able to change everything, but we can choose not to look away. We can choose to use the tools available to us to ease hardship at the most vulnerable moments in a person's life. So, colleagues, I urge you to support this motion and help ensure dignity and fairness for residents at the end of their life. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So opening this up, is that, oh yes, Councillor Vallander, and then Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillors Wilson and Ali for bringing this motion forward tonight, and I'm pleased to be supporting it in what I hope will be a show of unanimous support, because quite simply this is one of those issues where politics should step aside and humanity should come first. Marie Curie's latest research makes for devastating reading. Dying should not be a gateway into poverty, and bereavement should not push families into destitution. And while many of these levers sit with Westminster and the national government, local authorities have a moral responsibility to do what we can, and that's exactly what this motion asks us to do. It's particularly poignant for Swindon too, given the significant work by the former MP for North Swindon, Justin Tomlinson, during his time as the Minister for Disabled People, Health and Work. During his 2 periods as the Minister, he led and championed several key reforms, including reforming the special rules for terminal illness. For decades, that definition in the benefit system required a doctor to certify that someone was likely to die within 6 months. And that definition left thousands of people with unpredictable or complex conditions like MND, Parkinson's, advanced heart failure, certain cancers, without fast-track support. Launching that first major review of the 6-month rule in July 2019, Justin personally met with charities like Marie Curie and the MND Association. And in July 2021, he announced the government's commitment to change the law to extend that time limit from 6 months to 12 months, enabling far more terminally ill people to access the fast-track financial support, which has since been legislated for and implemented. He also included fast-tracking things like PIP, ESA, and universal credit for the terminally ill, so that those people under the special rules could receive support within days, often without assessment, easing both financial and administrative strain on families. These reforms at the time were widely welcomed by the charities, but more work is needed nationally. And we should recognise the contributions of those who have pushed the system, changed the system, reformed the system on all sides of Parliament to treat people with dignity. Now, we on Swindon Borough Council cannot rewrite the National Benefits Law, unfortunately, but we can make sure that in Swindon, households affected by terminal illness receive every possible shred of support within our control. And that's why this motion matters so much. The Council can review that council tax support scheme to ensure that households affected receive the help they need at the moment they need it most. We can look at how we can prioritise discretionary hardship support, including the new Crisis and Resilience Fund. Now, this motion is not going to solve every problem, but it's a meaningful step. The final months of life should not be spent begging for support. That should be automatic, humane, and dignified. No terminally ill person should spend their last weeks fighting bureaucratic battles instead of spending time with friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm grateful to Councillors Wilson and Alley for bringing this motion forward, as I'm certain that all fair-minded members will be concerned at this increasing and worrying situation. When you dive into the headline figures, you find that those most at risk of dying in poverty are working-age people, who are more likely than pensioners, partly because of stopping working leads to a more significant income drop. Ethnic minorities. Individuals from these backgrounds are disproportionately more likely to die in poverty. Women, who are more likely than men to die in poverty, particularly within the working age group, a trend that has worsened in recent years. Urban areas, which show a higher than average risk of life ending in poverty. The main causes of this are income loss, often through having to stop working, increased costs, more energy needed for heating or running medical equipment, transport costs to get to medical appointments, etc., etc. Inadequate social security, with existing systems sometimes inadequate to support people through end-of-life crisis. Whilst, as stated, a lot of this is down to national policy, there are many things that we, as a council, can do at a local level, including joined-up services, which we are developing. Tell us once protocols to simplify interaction. Retaining council tax discounts for the remainder of the financial year to provide support to the bereaved family. I believe, as a member of the Fairer Swindon Committee, that the asks in this motion are absolutely in line with the remit of that committee. It is exactly the sort of issue that we should be looking at. As a focus group participant said in a recent Hospice UK report, I quote, "It has a profound effect to have no money and be terminally ill. You think I might as well end my life. It's a nightmare scenario," end quote. Madam Mayor, that cannot be right in 2025. It should be a reflection on how we are society to value our citizens. And I ask and I call on all members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I've not seen anybody else indicate to speak, so Councillor Stanker-Wilson, did you want to come back?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank councillors for the supportive speeches, and I do agree it's an issue where politics should be set aside. It's very important. It's not panacea, but it is a step in the right direction and something we can influence at the local level. So thank you so much for your support, and let's move to the vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think I know the answer to this, but is the council content to agree the motion, dying in poverty, Marie Curie? Can I have all those in favour, please? Okay, I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on then to motion D, County Court Judgments. Councillor Dale Heenan, would you please bring forth your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Duly moved.
Do we have a seconder for the motion, please?
I second that motion.
Councillor Heenan, will you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll try and keep this relatively short. On the 17th of October, 2 council vans were clamped by bailiffs outside the front doors of this very building. The council declined to answer media questions when the clamping occurred, which is very odd. So naturally, being inquisitive, I asked the council for details for what happened, and I was told the vehicles were clamped because they did not have parking permits. That was the reason that I was provided in writing. Sorry, but that did not sound correct. So I did some digging. And you can imagine my surprise when I found 9 county court judgments have been secured against this council over 6 months. 1 in March, 1 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, 2 in July, and 2 in August. More than £138,000 secured. This is not normal. It does not normally happen in this authority. There remains no explanation of what has happened. No hands up to say, sorry, there's been a screw up. This is what we're doing to fix the situation. A one-off could be excused. Mistakes do happen. Yet it can't have been an issue with one department. It could be that one department had a particular problem and letters were sent in. And let's be honest, these were court judgments. Dozens of letters were sent to this authority over more than 6 months, and no action appears to have been taken. That is a serious situation to be in. Physical letters were sent, and nothing was taken. It doesn't matter what these CCJs were for, and in many ways it's a red herring to try and talk about what they were for. We still had action secured against us. This motion simply notes the facts, the consequences, and seeks a report to the Audit Committee on those failures and clarity on what needs to be done to improve the situation so it doesn't happen again. Now, I hope we can all say we don't want to see this situation repeating again in the future, and that we can all vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oisinger, do you wish to come in now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I fully support this motion regarding the concerns raised by Councillor Heenan on the CCJ served on this council. It is disappointing that the council had not paid the invoices that came in for these, and I am surprised that these are not set up to be paid automatically. I fully believe that a full internal audit should be carried out on how this council got to the point where CCJs were served on it, which will then hopefully prevent it happening again. When the CCJs were served, why were they not paid straight away? I hope everyone in this chamber agrees to a full internal audit that should be carried out and brought back to Audit Committee, and the results then come to full council. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Begun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Bush.
Sorry, thank you. Just had a question really for the relevant cabinet member who may be able to answer this, but I must also say this isn't unheard of. It's quite common in corporate entities where things are sometimes missed, so I don't think we can lay the blame completely on the council here. But what I would like to know is, can we confirm how many county court judgments we've got against us, and are we looking to pay all of them, or are we going to oppose any of them? What's our stance here, and what steps are we taking to ensure the process is tighter, essentially?
Councillor, I don't think we're going to get an answer to that here, are we? They might have to go forward. But Councillor Bushell, you wanted to come in?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to speak briefly, set out the details of the case. Clearly, this has not been the Council's finest hour. We regret it's happened, and we will strive to ensure it doesn't happen again. However, the motion before us does not accurately represent the current situation, and as the Council is already working to resolve the issues identified, the Labour Group will not be supporting the motion. I would be interested to hear from any future speakers whether at any point in the last 6 weeks they have made any attempts to contact either cabinet members or senior council officers to ascertain the full facts in this case and how the council is responding to that. Councillor Heenan, if you've had correspondence, I'd be really interested to see that from other officers. To talk to the facts of the case, on October 17th, High Court enforcement officers visited the council and clamped 2 vehicles at the front of the civic offices. This was due to the non-payment of costs to the court service for the loss of a housing disrepair claim, which resulted in a CCJ county court judgment being issued in July 2025. Now, this was highly embarrassing for the council, especially as it was recorded by the local democracy reporter who happened to be on the civic campus at the time and witnessed the incident. Now, incidentally, there are rumours that the aforementioned local democracy reporter was making unauthorised use of free parking at the council at the time to run an errand into town, but I'm sure they wouldn't be so shameless as to do so and then publish a story at the council's expense. But to return to the facts of the case, the fine was paid immediately and the vehicles were unclamped. Now, the reason that this had not been properly dealt with was because it had been partly processed by a member of staff who then unfortunately was sick for a period of time. It was not redirected to another officer and therefore not paid. Absolutely the council's fault, the council's mistake. To be clear, we have not had any similar enforcement activity under this administration. Now, for clarity, a county court judgment is a court decision against the council or any defendant in a case taken to county court. We will receive them each time we are not successful in defending any claim heard in the county court. The 9 CCJs referred to in the motion are CCJs that were not paid to the court within 30 days. They have all now been settled. But in order for them to come off the list, which informs the motion before us, we now know we need to identify the court, which we'd not done following settlement. Now, a council of this size and complexity means that, unfortunately, there will always be circumstances in which the council is not successful in defending claims. There were, of course, many CCJs issued against the council, defended by the council, successfully and unsuccessfully, when the Conservatives were running the council. And, you know, as the proposer has alluded to, many of these claims that the council faced under our administration unfortunately relate to housing disrepair claims. They either predate us or have come as a result of the chronic underinvestment in and systematic neglect of our 10,000 council houses over 20 years of the Conservative administration. To be clear, to speak to a point in the motion, this does not impact upon our obligations in us fulfilling our obligations to pay businesses on time. So on October the 31st, the Chief Executive and Section 151 officer instructed the Head of Internal Audit to do an investigation into the circumstances relating to the incident and into the processes the Council and Court use to process county court judgments. This is to ensure that this cannot happen again. Internal Audit will be reviewing processes to identify the improvements that need to be made and to ensure the timely payment to CCJs in future. The investigation is ongoing and findings can be reported to the Audit Committee once complete, should that be the will of that committee. Sometimes as a council we get things wrong and due to the size and complexity of the council, unfortunately we will get things wrong in the future. However, what this administration and this council will always do is to seek to learn from mistakes and strive to do better. The incident was a failure of process and senior officers have already taken the appropriate actions to learn from this incident. I'm confident the council is already undertaking what is asked for in the motion, and for this reason, as well as the shaky underpinnings of the motion, the Labour Group will not be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher.
I think it's slightly disappointing to hear the Deputy Leader say that they're not intending to support this motion and to vote it down whilst and saying nothing to see here, whilst also saying we're already doing this report and that you may present it to the Audit Committee. It seems misguided, frankly, to then not simply just support the motion as you're acknowledging that you're already going to effectively do what it's asking you to do. I did raise a slight eyebrow at the point made by Councillor Heenan as well, that of the initial reason that he was given about a lack of parking permits, and that doesn't seem to have been addressed by the administration at all. We have to be able to trust the answers given to us by officers and that they are reporting accurately, so I do think that that bears a little bit more looking into as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Courtliff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this, but just reading the motion, I agree with everything Councillor Bushell said. I thought it was a good speech with contrition and it covered facts, and I think that's what this motion achieves. It accepts that things go wrong, processes may have flaws in them, and therefore a report to the Audit Committee highlighting where those processes have failed and what we're going to do to ensure that it doesn't happen again is what this motion is asking for. If there are any particular elements that you find political, then let's amend it out. But the substance of the motion is more procedural in identifying how we can do exactly what you've said, look at what went wrong and make sure it didn't happen again. So I don't know if it's the fact that Councillor Heenan's brought it forward and therefore it comes across as political, but the actual substance of the motion I don't find political. So I think it could be unanimously supported and it doesn't cause any issues for the administration.
Thank you. I'm not hearing any other indicators to speak, so Councillor Heelan, do you want... Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I missed... Carry on. Councillor Adams, sorry.
Apologies there. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a well-known fact that Labour are awful with the public finances. I mean, this in itself doesn't really surprise us at all. I mean, indeed, if you put Labour in charge of the Sahara Desert, they'd some way find a way to run out of sand. But in this case, it's our money. Now, let's be clear, I personally don't blame the officers, although we've just heard some blame being thrown around by my colleague here. With departments being cut to the bone, they're being put in a position of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And as a result of Labour's mismanagement, we find ourselves in debtors' courts. This is a huge embarrassment for SBC, and as an organisation, this will raise questions to our creditors that will have financial implications long beyond when this failing administration is removed in May. Yet despite the scale of this embarrassment, we have not seen any accountability from the leader, just baseless words and platitudes in an effort to save face and embarrassment. Before Councillor Bushell said what she said, I was going to say we need transparency, we need honesty, and more importantly, we need answers. But Labour have made it clear tonight that we're not going to get those, just the pre-prepared statements. Directing my gaze over towards the Labour backbenchers there, I know many of you are currently questioning whether you're going to remain in the Labour Party, and I would urge you tonight to question whether you really want to back what's being said tonight and hiding from public who really do deserve to see what's going on behind the scenes.
Can we stick to the motion in front of us, please? If we can stick to the motion.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Helpful for me if people can indicate that they need to speak. I am trying hard to keep on top of it. I think we're now on Councillor Heenan. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Bushell, for your comments there. I think we can safely say this is not a normal situation. There was not a single CCJ last year or the year before. This is not common for Swindon. It might be for others, but it isn't here. We are very good on these kind of topics. I don't think we can blame a member of staff who is ill, but that is what we have heard. Okay, that's one. What about the other 8 that we've had this year? Was it down to a member of staff every single time? Then it's blame the Conservatives. Labour councillors have been in charge for more than 2 years, and it's always somebody else's fault. Every month between March and August, this council had CCJ secured against them. That's the seriousness of this. So if internal audit have been asked to go ahead and perform this work, great. Then this motion can be supported by everybody in the room because it simply notes the facts, and they are facts. They could be disputed, but they can all be backed up. The financial problems of this council are escalating. We heard the last couple of full councils where we had a £10 million payday loan to pay utility bills and staff wages in Q1. It was repaid after 14 days when council tax direct debits were paid. We're spending £18 million more money than our income this year, and we heard just this week more than £28 million is the gap for next year. This is a motion that could quite easily have been cross-party supported, and it's a shame that it's not. I sincerely hope that we don't receive another 8 or 9 county court judgments in the coming years.
Thank you, Councillor Heelan. So is the council content to agree the motion county court judgments? Can I have all those in favour, please? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, I do declare that vote lost. Thank you. Moving on to motion E, ID cards. Can I invite Councillor Matt Vallender to move the 5th motion, please?
Yeah, I move, Madam Mayor.
And do we have a seconder for the motion?
I duly second, Madam Mayor.
Fantastic, thank you. Councillor Vallender, will you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You'll be pleased to hear that I don't intend to take the full 10 minutes, given that we're only on motion 5 of 9 tonight. Now, I brought this motion forwards along with Councillor Chandler, not to make a technical point, but to issue a warning, because what the government is proposing, a mandatory digital identity for everyone by 2029, is not progress.
It's a quiet step towards a society where freedom becomes conditional and privacy is optional. Let me paint you a picture. The year's 2029, it's a grey morning in Swindon. You wake up, you reach for your phone, not to check the weather or the headlines, but because you must. You open your phone, present the credential with your name, your date of birth, your photo, your nationality and residency status, and only then, if the digital portal recognises you and your code is live and valid, are you allowed to board the bus, claim your benefits, engage with government services, take up a job, enrol your child in school. Without your digital ID glowing on the screen, you can't prove who you are. You can't access your pension. You can't apply for housing. You can't book a GP appointment. You're locked out, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your battery has died, or your connection has failed, or the system simply doesn't recognise you. That, Madam Mayor, is the world we're being asked to accept. A world where your very identity lives not within you, but inside a government database. A world where access to everyday life is mediated by a code, a QR, or a swipe. A world that risks turning millions of decent, law-abiding people, the elderly, those who can't afford smartphones, the digitally excluded, into second-class citizens. They may lack access to a modern smartphone or the digital confidence to use one. Are we really ready to tell them, sorry, no digital ID, no service? If access to public services, benefits and jobs becomes contingent on this digital ID, we're creating a new underclass, a world where for want of a verified wallet, a decent job is denied, a benefit's delayed, or a school place is refused. The danger here lies not in what is promised, but in the subtext, in tweaks, in creeping mandates, in the fact that once this threshold is crossed, the landscape changes. And we've seen this story before. In the 2000s, Tony Blair's Labour government tried to introduce national ID cards. They said it would make life easier, safer, more secure, and it collapsed under the weight of public outrage. Because people saw it for what it was, a dangerous overreach by the state into the lives of ordinary citizens. This is the same scheme, just with shinier language and a smartphone app under the attractive guise of convenience. But convenience can be a Trojan horse. It's the same centralised database, the same risks, the same assumption that the citizens should serve the system, not the other way around. We're told this is initially going to be optional. But let's be honest, optional has a way of becoming mandatory by stealth. First it's needed for work checks, then for benefits, then for healthcare, then before you know it, you can't live a normal life without it. And it won't stop there. The government has even floated the idea of rolling children, aged just 13, into these digital ID systems, registered, verified and logged by the government's database. When did being a citizen of this country start to mean carrying proof of innocence in your pocket? Madam Mayor, for councils like ours, it's a financial time bomb. Because to make our systems compatible, we need to overhaul IT, retrain staff, rewrite policies, and spend money that we simply don't have. Now, this motion has a few key asks. Consulting our residents and schools when the government opens its consultation. Looking at adding this scheme to our corporate risk register because it is a genuine organisational risk. For the leader to write to the Home Secretary making clear Swindon's opposition to a mandatory digital ID. And finally, it says we'll stand with our voluntary groups to make sure that no resident, not one, is excluded or penalised for lacking a digital identity. Because when technology starts deciding who belongs, it's no longer serving society, it's defining it. I would strongly encourage all councillors to back this motion and reject a future bill on digital ID first, citizen second. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chandler, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
I'm going to reserve my right, Madam Mayor.
Fantastic. Do we have anybody wishing to speak? Yes, Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We see the ever-increasing hand of an authoritarian state, with Labour now looking to steal our right to a jury trial, restricting our rights to protest, and now requiring everyone to show their papers. We see the overreach of Labour in all aspects of our lives. To top it off, we see this egregious attack on our rights costing us £1.8 billion. Billions at a time we're being told that there simply isn't any money. The lies just don't add up, just like their sums. At a time when Labour are attacking the poorest in our society, forcing record levels of tax on people, they are now forcing this monstrosity onto us, and to add insult, they're making us pay for it all. This madness, the attacks on our civil liberties, and the attacks on our pockets must end. I urge everyone tonight to vote in favour of this motion.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Heath and then Councillor Butcher.
Try and stay on topic for this one and stay away from hyperbole. There's a lot of youth walking around with their passports, and they're using those as ID. A digital ID is a very good tool so that you don't have to carry your passport around and face your passport getting stolen or you losing it and identity theft. So I've got a driving license, NHS number. There's lots of identification for me. In a modern government, they want to tie all of these things together and increase the efficiency of all of the departments. So I think we should consider this when we're thinking about the motion tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Could anyone else please indicate?
Thank you. I'm slightly bemused by the roles being reversed here between Labour and the Tories, frankly. It was only 18 months or so ago that I say we, when I was a member of the Labour group, went out and argued so vehemently against voter ID when the Conservatives brought that in. Strange now, I find that the shoes are on the other feet and suddenly everybody's very pro-ID when it seems to have a lot of the same criticisms, frankly, in the way that it restricts people's access in certain ways. I'm actually convinced by some of the arguments around it being illiberal and authoritarian, frankly, particularly in the way that some of the announcements are being made on it and the way that it's intended to run. The devil is often in the detail, as we hear, and it certainly seems to be in this one. For example, there are rumours of privatisation through it. Doesn't strike me as a very Labour way of going about it to begin with, or maybe it is a bit of New Labour really, isn't it? But when they're talking about possibly using a company like Palantir to run the system, Palantir is founded by a self-described techno-fascist. Is that really who we want having our ID data? It's certainly not who I want mine to sit with. It's an interesting U-turn, frankly, from the Prime Minister, who was asked literally days after the general election last year, will you be implementing digital ID? Because Tony Blair had fired up and said you should, and he vehemently denied it. But now we see, not much more than a year later, a U-turn on it and him saying, actually, we're fully in favour of this. We hear him say that it's optional, but also you will not have the right to work if you don't have it. So it's not really very optional, is it, for a party that says that they're on the side of working people? Ultimately, as I say, there are a lot of errors and issues within the detail of this. There needs a lot more rethinking. I can see an argument in favour of digital ID on a basis of it being much more fair and rolled out in a more suitable way, but the way it's currently running, no, I could not be supporting it.
Thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else indicate. Councillor Chandler, would you like to come back?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to thank Councillor Vallender for asking me to second this motion. The motion does talk to the very disgraceful, illiberal and impractical aspects to this particular policy, and I'll talk more specifically to that in just a second. But let's not forget something else. This is also distraction politics at its very worst. A political stink bomb, if you will, precisely designed to draw outrage, all of it warranted, by the way, and we've heard some slightly contradictory but good comments from our Green colleagues there. But this is a distraction. It's a distraction from the stagflation caused by Labour to the economy. It's a distraction from the various scandals that ministers are in, from avoiding taxes and cronyism. And let's not forget, when we're talking about the era of mass surveillance, completely dropping the ball on spy scandals involving China. There's a basic principle at the heart of our motion, and that's that individuals, whether they're in Swindon or any other part of the UK, should not have to prove their identity to perform basic tasks, go about their daily lives, and frankly, exercise basic rights. This is an inversion of the true relationship between individuals and the state, which exists to serve them. There's rightly scrutiny over the policy's effectiveness, but even this concedes crucial territory in the war for civil liberties. The question is not only about how a policy like this could work, but also why it is needed and at what cost, socially, financially, politically, etc. Digital ID will not solve illegal migration. Other countries' examples prove this. Illegally employed people already operate outside the parameters of formal systems in the UK, like HMRC and PAYE. There's nothing to suggest this policy would prevent that. Instead, millions of law-abiding people and businesses are about to pick up the bill for more red tape, increasing friction in our daily lives while offering no social benefit. This policy, nor the equally Orwellian-sounding policy floated by David Lammy this week to abolish the ancient right of trial by jury for many, ever made it into the Labour manifesto. The reasons for this political sleight of hand are obvious.
So to bring you up to speed, we have Labour abandoning many of its campaign promises from 2024, and in 2025 we now have really unpopular policies being brought forward on for totally new commitments that Labour have absolutely no mandate for. Working people are now paying more than ever for energy, food and in taxes.
Can we just stick to
All
the
Labour
motion on the
lies before
ID
the
cards?
election.
Is that okay, please?
Okay.
Thank
Don't worry, it's easier to keep tabs on everything working people will do now going forward, thanks to this totally unnecessary digital ID. Wow, thanks Labour. I'm glad you've got your priorities sorted. Forgive me, Madam Mayor, but with all these policies being drafted in to replace the broken promises of a year ago, I thought we were debating allotments again. This is what Labour must have meant by no overall net losses.
We're definitely doing ID
We've
cards.
seen policy after policy grow exponentially beyond its original scope. Does anyone seriously expect this policy to remain rigid? It's inevitable it will mission creep over time, colonising its way into our personal beliefs, where no government has any jurisdiction, by the way, into justice, into health, into employment, into benefits, and of course financial tracking. Madam Mayor, truth matters, and for as long as we can express it freely, councillors must speak it. Our country, and indeed our town, is not only not benefiting from Labour, many of the decisions by this government and this Labour administration, including digital ID, will make people's lives harder. In that respect, Swindon has been the canary in the coal mine. Just look at their lie about freezing council tax. We're no better, no fairer, nor greener as a council, unless you count the defections to the Green Party caused by local and national Labour politics.
I will ask you again just to stick to the motion, please.
I believe I am speaking to the motion, Madam Mayor.
It's definitely deviating.
Okay, I don't see any other member get this level of scrutiny. I say all this without hesitation, just as I defend the rights of those who totally disagree with me. But it's important to recognise that in recognising when we're losing essential freedoms, as we surely will, we are opening the sluices of Pandora's box, which will not be closed again. I have reservations and doubts that the country and this town will be left in a better state than the one all of us hopefully aspire to as councillors. I urge your members tonight to remember that the power our electorates have entrusted to us must be returned back to them unblemished at election times. Please support this motion and tell government we won't support our residents' rights, particularly those to privacy, ever being taken away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chandler. Thank you. Anybody else wish to come in? If not, Councillor Vallender, would you like to finish? Wind it up. Oh, hang on, Councillor Robbins.
No, you didn't.
I do
You were seconding the motion. Yeah,
No, but then I still invite another speaker, and then Councillor Vallender
If you
finishes
say-
it, and then that's it.
If you say something
Believe me,
crazy,
I'd
we
like
have
to.
the right to respond to it
Seems
after
very
you.
fair, thank you.
The proposal is to summarise.
Can we move on then? Councillor Robbins, would you like to?
I'm a bit bemused by some of the hyperbole we've heard from some of the speakers. It's a consultation that the government are putting out. When the government opens the consultation, people have the right to respond to it. We will let that happen. It isn't for the council to coordinate that response. That would be us spending money on something we just simply don't need to do at a time when I would much rather we spent our money on providing the essential services that Swindon residents need. We'll be voting this down.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Vallender, you are our final speaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make this quick. It was disappointing to see that not one of the Labour backbenchers tonight could share an opinion on this motion, and we only heard from the Leader of the Council there as an afterthought at the end of the debate. I want to thank Councillors Chandler and Adams for bringing the points up that they did. They're completely right, and I'm in full agreement with the concerns that they're raising. I also want to thank Councillor Butcher for speaking on this motion. I might disagree with him on his comparison of voter ID versus digital ID, but I do share his concerns on the other points that he's raised, and he's right, this is a Labour government that has done U-turn after U-turn after U-turn, and I'm grateful that he's able to recognise that now. Now, the reality here is that illegal citizens who aren't going to show a passport to take a job aren't suddenly going to start showing a digital ID to businesses. And the businesses that aren't checking these physical IDs, whether it's a passport, a birth certificate, whatever, aren't suddenly going to start checking the app. And the reality is this is going to be more and more red tape for businesses. I think the key point here that I think both Councillors Chandler and Adams raised in their speeches is that 1.8 billion is an extortionate sum. We've seen the Chancellor break her promise not to raise taxes on working people, and she's going to have to do this again to fund this promise if it goes ahead. Labour lies, taxes on working people rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So is the council content to agree the motion ID? Can I please have all those in favour, please? Any against? And any abstentions? No? Okay, I do declare that vote lost. Moving on to motion F. Can I invite Councillor Nick Gardner to move the motion, the sixth motion, highways maintenance, please?
Thank you. Yes, I move the motion.
Thank you very much. And do we have a seconder for the motion? Thank you very much. Councillor Gardner, will you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight I bring this motion to the Chamber to make a clear and important point. We must be doing more. Swindon deserves a highway maintenance strategy that is proactive, not reactive, forward-looking, not playing catch-up. Earlier this year, I brought forward a motion calling for the Council to adopt a technical standard, PAS 2161, immediately, rather than wait until it became mandatory in 2026. That proposal would have given a clear, objective, evidence-based report on every road and footpath needing repair right now. It would have allowed us to plan work accurately, budget responsibly, and avoid the very situation that we're discussing tonight. But that motion was voted down. And today, as we all acknowledge, we are seeing the consequences. Long, deep cracks across the pavements and roads, a growing number of residents contacting us, not with isolated complaints, but with a rising pattern of concern. And now, we face the risk that a cold winter will turn these cracks into potholes, subsidence, and far more expensive repairs come spring. Colleagues, this is exactly what PAS 2161 was designed to prevent. It would have ensured consistency, transparency, and early detection of defects. So we weren't relying on anecdotal reports from the public, a little like we've heard earlier at the start of this meeting, waiting until the damage becomes critical. Instead, we're now reacting to a problem we could and should have anticipated. I welcome the request for the head of for a review by the head of highways and for work to be brought forward. These are sensible steps, but they're not enough. We should not be waiting until 2026 to align with the national standards when the problems we face are happening right now. If anything, Swindon should be ahead of the curve, leading the way, not following after deterioration forces our hand. Every councillor in this chamber knows the truth. When highway maintenance is done late, it costs more. It causes more disruption. And our residents who rely on these roads every single day pay the price. So yes, let's back this motion, but let's also learn from the facts that a change to the acting earlier was missed, and let's not miss that chance again. Let's commit not only to reviewing the defects we have already seen, but adopting the best tools and standards available to identify the defects we haven't yet seen. Let's stop reacting to complaints and start preventing them. Because this is not just about cracks in the road, it's about confidence in our ability, as a council, to plan ahead, to invest wisely, and to look after the infrastructure of our town depends on. Swindon deserves a highway maintenance strategy that is modern, data-driven, and proactive. So I say, let's support this motion and let's raise our ambitions further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Cook, do you wish to reserve your right or speak now?
Madam Mayor.
Carry on.
I have many elderly residents in my ward who have complained about the state of the pavements around Wroughton. Many use a stick or a wheelchair to get about, or even a white stick because they're nearly blind. These pavement issues were reported and investigated and came back that they didn't fit the criteria for a repair. In September, one of my residents decided to take her mother to the weekly farmer market on the Friday, as it was such a lovely day. Her mum had suffered a stroke. The daughter was pushing the wheelchair along the pavement when she hit a rut in the pavement. Her mother's wheelchair tipped over and her mother was lying on the ground, unable to move, and had to wait 2.5 hours for an ambulance to come out. Her oxygen levels had gone down to 80, which is critical. A doctor from the surgery came out to help. The lady was in a critical condition and was in the critical care unit at the Great Western. And on Sunday, the family were called in as they didn't think she would survive the night. Fortunately, she turned a corner with the wonderful care she received from the Great Western. This lady had broken a cheekbone. She looked as though she'd had a round with Mike Tyson and ongoing health issues. This lady is now back home living at her daughter's home, but are living in cramped conditions and living in her daughter's lounge with carers coming in 4 times a day. I met with the family and saw the area where the accident had happened. I couldn't believe that this rut in the pavement had caused her wheelchair to tip over. She is very lucky to be alive. In April, my brother-in-law fell and broke his hip. He was operated on, and a week later he was dead. It turned out that he fell and perforated his stoma, which leaked into his body and poisoned him. We really have to be careful with our elderly residents, because a fall could cause a serious damage or worse, a fatality like my brother-in-law, and also my mum, who had a fall and passed away 6 weeks later.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Thank you. I've got Councillor Watts, and if anybody else could please indicate, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, it's me next to you. Did you say me? Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm really surprised that the premise of the speeches today is suggesting that this is a new problem and things have got worse this year, which is simply not the case. In fact, only in the last council meeting, I had Conservative members complimented me on what a good job we've done in highways, which was greatly appreciated at the time. We all know the situation with the finances in highways. We all know the pressure on the local transport plan. We all know that in 2023 we had a £4.2 million budget for it, likewise in 2024, and in 2025 this year we've benefited from additional £1.7 million. And that money has been put to good use to bring projects forward. But I'm not at any point, or have not at any point, gaslighted the people of Swindon to suggest that that extra money has solved the problems that we have. And these are deep-seated problems within highways that have been there for many, many years that precede me. There's one metric I would like to tell you, and it's about insurance claims that we get. And this gives you an idea of how changing the way we work and having additional money makes a difference to the outcomes that we have. So, for example, in 2023, we dealt with 238 claims in highways. In 2024, that's reduced to 142. This year to date is 89, and I suspect that that's going to be less than 100 by the end of the year. And that's a massive improvement in the outcomes as far as the way we respond to issues, the way we respond to dangerous potholes in the road, for example, and that we're making sure that if they're reported, they're dealt with within 24 hours, whereas before in 2023, there was competing policies, which meant that we were getting more claims because we weren't dealing with the right potholes at the right time, and that's been fixed. And I'm very pleased in the way that the highways team and the operations team have really worked to try and improve the situation for the people of Swindon with the funding that we have. Now, what I would say is this motion has come just a bit too early. Now, if you'd brought this motion out next month, or the next meeting, well, we'll know how much funding we're getting from central government. I mentioned it earlier today. Is it going to be the same as we've had before, or are we going to get some incremental increases and a 3-year plan? Because that makes a huge difference in how we plan moving forward, and we'll know in the next couple of weeks. And also, the Honourable Member for Highworth, Councillor Gardner, I have offered that if you want to have a CMAG, want to create a CMAG, that you just need to let me know if that's something you'd like to do, because I would appreciate it, and I think I would benefit from your experience in this area. But it's not something that needs a motion. Come and talk to me, and we can see if we can work together on this. But unfortunately, the way this has been couched in the information, I just can't support it. It's quite disappointing, to be quite honest. So I would urge that people don't support this motion. And again, I extend that offer to the shadow member for highways that we can have a CMAG and discuss this.
Thank you. I have Councillor Vallender and then Councillor Heenan. Councillor Vallender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to see that the Cabinet member there has recognised the extent of the problem, although I'm disappointed to see that won't translate into support for tonight's motion. I want to thank Councillors Gardner and Cook for bringing this forward because it speaks to something that every councillor in this chamber hears almost daily, from email inboxes, Facebook comments, ward surgeries, phone calls, to being stopped out in public by residents. We've just had one of the driest summers on record. The ground has shifted, the soil has shrunk, and we're now heading into winter. And that's why this motion is absolutely right. If we don't act now, these cracks become crevices. A bad winter turns a manageable problem into a very, very expensive repair bill in the spring. But this isn't a theoretical risk at all. In Stratton and South Marsden, we've been living with this problem long before this motion hit the agenda. So I want to use the rest of my time tonight to highlight the long list that residents have been raising with me, some repeatedly, many for months, many for over a year, and some throughout my entire time as a councillor since July 23. Think of this as a bit of a guided tour through the Highways Department's inbox via my ward. We've seen issues on Wildstone Way, parking restrictions requested at the junction of Oxford Road and Wildstone Way, no action yet taken. Highworth Road, requests for control crossings up by Kingsdown Road for the Stanton Chase estate, no action taken to date. Sandgate, request to review parking controls due to concerns over parking at junctions and sightlines, no action taken to date. Highworth Road, speed signs on the Delamere Drive junction.
We stick to the motion, which is about roads and footpaths. Sorry,
I'm speaking to the motion, Madam Mayor. Highworth Road, again, no action taken to date. The A420, request for pedestrian crossing facilities for bus users on the A420 near South Marsden. That is being delivered by the developers.
Highways maintenance? I'm not really seeing the
This is all highways related, Madam Mayor.
cracks and pavements and roads and...
Yeah, motions on highways maintenance. This is relevant to the motion. Burden Close, request for yellow lines at the Oxford Road junction. No action taken to date. Delamere Drive, a further review of the zebra crossing request where the path crosses near Hatch and Winton. Again, no action taken to date. West End Road, request for pavement parking restrictions on Hardy Close as well. Again, no action taken to date, although I do appreciate the trial zone is progressing in St Andrews. Kingsdown Road, review of speeds and overtaking. Again, no action taken to date. Griffiths Close, request for parking restrictions due to the length of parked cars on the narrow road. Again, no action taken to date. Ermine Street, concerns over the speeds of the southern section and the number of collisions. Again, no action taken to date.
I do have to stop you. I'm struggling to find the link. Some of these are new things. This is not maintenance. These are new requests. I think this. I think if we'd have pinned it down and just put about maintenance, I might have let it in. But we're talking about yellow lines requested. That's not maintenance. That's different.
That's fine, Madam Mayor. I can move on from that. We've seen tonight public questions from the fantastic Lower Stratton Conservative candidate Marco De Pinto, where he has actually raised concerns over a variety of road and pavement repairs in Lower Stratton and Colview. Again, we've seen no action taken on these to date. All of these are on the Highways Ward log list. Most of these are all backdated. I've got copies of that spreadsheet. Whether that's the White Hart roundabout footbridge repairs, whether that's Park Street, whether that is the Azalea Court footpath, the path behind Watermead, the path behind Kenwyn Close, junction safety on things like Swindon Road. We have seen no action taken on any of these to date. And that's not even the full list. I was cut off by the Mayor just now. So I want to welcome this motion and call for cross-party recognition on the scale of this problem tonight. I promised when I stood for election to become one of the councillors for Stratton and South Marsden in the by-election, July 23, that I would raise these street scene issues and push the Labour administration to fix every pothole, every cracked footpath, every failed repair and every dangerous junction because they matter to the people who use them every single day, and I'll continue to do so if re-elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've got Councillor Heenan, Councillor Butcher, Councillor Amin and then Councillor Watts. Did you want to come in? Nadine Watts? No. Okay. Councillor Heenan next, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We have had an extended dry summer, and as we all knock on doors and deliver leaflets, we can see what this has meant for our footpaths. So in Red House, Councillor Adams and I have seen the tarmac of City Fibre and Virgin trenching separating from the footpath tarmac in places 2 metre, 5 metre, 10 metre long cracks, which you can put your phone in. It's been reported. It was inspected within 24 hours, which is really, really good performance, but no action has been taken. Now, colleagues in Stratton, Highworth, Rawton have provided their own examples. We all have our examples And the last few days, we have had the first cold snap of the winter. Gritters were out de-icing the roads. Cars were iced up. Ice will have been in those cracks across the town. Our fear, and that's why we've come forward this month, is that a cold, icy winter is going to mean those footpath cracks are going to be significantly worse and mean a repair bill of millions. Now, proactive sealing now is going to avoid that cost. Investing now is going to save us a bigger problem in the months and years ahead, particularly if we do get more grant funding from the government. Great, but you're just going to fill the issues that we already know about in the town. Now, there is a financial limit to what Swindon Borough Council to do within the local transport plan. We know that. The Conservatives originally phrased this motion as support for Cabinet having cross-party support for taking any necessary action to address this situation. But review with officers said that it was better to do it as a recommendation about recommending an immediate review to resolve as soon as possible, and if necessary, that a request goes to Cabinet next week seeking approval of those means that are necessary to rectify. We don't mind how. If the will is there, then something can be done. Sadly, it sounds like we've had quite a defensive response, which is more computer says no. We will support the Labour administration needing to do whatever it needs to do to proactively seal and repair these footpaths. This remains the case, and we cannot wait months and years. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher and then Councillor Amin. Councillor Butcher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Valander for reading out, speed-running, frankly, a very long list of ward issues, most of which I've raised and put on the ward priorities list, so I'm very pleased to see that he's aware of them as well. The Cabinet member spoke about roads in particular in response to this and in insurance claims, but I feel that that misses the point slightly when this motion is focused predominantly on footpaths. We all know the budget constraints that we're under. We all know that there has been additional funding given by the Labour government to invest more in roads, but we cannot forget our footpaths.
Sorry, point of information. Sorry, the insurance claims were for across the piece, and that wasn't just roads.
Thank you. Let me find my place again. Apologies. The reality is that many issues with our footpaths are simply ignored while roads are prioritised. There are huge swathes of our footpaths that need resurfacing quite seriously, not just from cracks opening up from a lot of heat in the summer, but from a variety of reasons where they've simply not been maintained over a long period of time. We hear often that Labour says they're on the side of drivers. They need to be on the side of people. The pavements are for people. We need to make sure that they are fit for them. I regularly hear from residents in my ward, particularly older residents living in Colview, about how they feel more safe and more secure walking down the road than they do down the pavements because they are so unstable on them that they risk falling. A lot of the descriptions given by councillors tonight ring true for many of us councillors across the town that we will hear from our elderly residents. I met earlier this year with a local resident, Alan Fletcher, who's a representative of the Swindon Guide Dogs, and we went for a walk around the local area as well, and he demonstrated firsthand, along with one of their trainee guide dogs, just how perilous some of the footpaths can be, not just through disrepair, but through parking, through numerous issues that ultimately mean that residents, especially elderly, especially disabled, especially parents with buggies, simply cannot access our footpaths well and remain locked in their homes a lot of the time. This is an inequalities issue and we should approach it as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. I think we've got Councillor Amin, and then I think we're looking to come back to you, Councillor Gardner, to finish up. Oh, hang on, scrap that. We've got Councillor Courtleigh. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't normally speak, and I wasn't going to speak, but I thought in this particular motion I wanted to speak. And the reason for that is basically we go out and about every week, talk with the residents, and from my personal point of view as well, I think the amount of road resurfacing this administration has done, the amount of potholes that this administration has done, when I talk to the people, and it's not my word, the people will say, look, the amount of work we have done in the last 2 years, the other party hasn't done in the last 10 years. And that's not my words, that's the words of the people of this town. So I think this administration is doing a very good job in terms of highway maintenance, including footpaths as well. So just wanted to say I disagree with what I've been saying by the opposition party. Clearly, there needs to be more done, which I appreciate that. But in terms of what we have done so far, we have exceeded, resident expectation. We have done more in the last 2 years than they have done in the last 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've got Councillor Courtliff. Councillor Courtliff, you indicated, and then I think we're coming back to you, Councillor Gardner. Courtliff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to get back. Thanks for Councillor Butcher for steering the motion back on track, because I think the footpaths are overlooked. I gave you credit, Councillor Watts. You have done a great job on the urban roads. The footpaths, though, Councillor Butcher raises a very valid point that the state of some of the footpaths, as highlighted by Councillor Cook in her speech. Unfortunately, several of the front bench were scrolling on their phones, but one of our residents did nearly lose their life as a result of the footpaths. And the inequality created by the state of some of the footpaths, the locking away of the elderly people or disabled people, that needs to be looked into. So is there a framework for a diversity impact assessment of the footpaths? Do we know which routes in town are used more by vulnerable people? And can we prioritise these footpath repairs to ensure that people have that ability to get out and about and aren't locked in their own home due to a vital piece of infrastructure not suiting their needs? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Al.
Could we just go to the vote, please? I haven't brought my sleeping bags.
I think we ought to entitle Councillor Gardner. Did you want to add anything before we quickly move to the vote?
Well, I would, thank you. Yes, I'll. The experiences Councillor Cook spoke to are sadly not far too familiar to me, and I cannot be alone in the chamber in feeling this. I have raised multiple requests through our ticketing systems about Vicarage Lane, to be one road I'll start on, to speak with hospitalised residents that have come out and are clearly upset at nothing having been done to the situation other than no repairs not needed. As the Cabinet Member for Highways has stated, we have a £50 million backlog of work that needs to be done with a budget of £5 million. We're not going to be getting any better anytime soon at that rate. I do welcome the very recent announcement that SBC is the newest member to have joined LCRIG, the Local Council Road Innovation Group. I think that's a brilliant step forward. This is a great opportunity to upskill our officers with sponsored places at national events and online training opportunities at no cost to Swindon Borough. I also would like to praise the Highways team for recently adopting thermal road repair technologies across the borough. I've seen them out at least in 2 locations, and these are repairs that do not need, they're permanent repairs that do not need repeating every 6 months due to bad weather pushing out the material. I welcome a meeting soon to discuss the current challenges in more detail and explore how we could do more with new innovations available to Swindon. So I thank Councillor Watts for that and look to find something soon in the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. So we're then moving on to the vote. So is the Council content to agree the motion highways maintenance? Can I have all those in favour, please? Thank you. All those against? Any against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you. I declare that vote lost. Then we now move on to our motion, our 7th motion, I believe, motion G. Can I invite Councillor Tom Butcher to move the 7th motion, please? Acres Way Road Safety.
Thank you. Yeah, as tabled.
I believe, is there an amended motion now we're going forward with? Is the Council minded to accept the amended motion? Sounds good. Is there a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher, would you please introduce your motion? You have up to 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start by recognising the 3rd anniversary of Harry Parker's death, which occurred just 2 days ago. And thanks to Harry's parents, Adam and Kelly, for attending tonight and listening to our debate. This is a very important and sensitive topic for the people of Swindon. The the feeling across the town was enormous when this first happened and in the subsequent proceedings that took place, especially around a lack of any prosecution on this matter. So we know that this is something that is very dear to people's heart. I'd also, as the motion states, like to recognise and acknowledge the Harry's Get Home Safely campaign that Harry's family and friends have been running and the fantastic work that that's doing. Particularly Harry's dad, Adam, who, as I understand, still visits the school every day to ensure that kids are crossing safely. I say all of this to really highlight the importance of this motion and the importance that we must act to make this crossing safer. So I'd like to talk to some of the details of the motion, and I'd like to also thank the Labour Group for agreeing to make this a cross-party motion. I think it's really important that we can show unity on this matter, and I hope that we will see that across the entire chamber tonight. So to talk about the detail of the motion, put simply, this is to push for some action to be taken on this road junction. In particular, to look at raising the road surface into making it a tabletop crossing. This serves an important function, frankly, to act as a speed deterrent, to make sure that drivers, when approaching this crossing, slow to an appropriate speed to cross over. It's similar to a speed bump, but with far more effect at crossings. I've also called in the motion for us to look at the possibility of making it a zebra crossing. Now, I've chosen my wording quite carefully on how I've called for that in the motion, so as not to be too prescriptive in insisting of that, but purely for us to investigate the effectiveness of that move. And that's for a few reasons. I want to talk about the psychology a little bit of how drivers approach crossings, particularly green light crossings versus, or pelican crossings, as is installed currently, versus a zebra crossing. Drivers subconsciously, when approaching a crossing, will see a green light, and they see that as their green light to carry on. It doesn't at times enter into the decision as to, is there somebody crossing the road actively? It tricks the brain effectively into saying you can proceed safely, when in reality drivers should be checking to make sure that it is safe to proceed regardless. A zebra crossing takes a slightly different approach because it requires drivers to pay much more attention. It prompts you subconsciously to think, do I need to look for a pedestrian? Do I need to slow down? The Volusia beacons flash, and you know that that is a zebra crossing very clearly. That is my reason for including that in there. But ultimately, the wording is specific in that it requires for officers to look at the most effective way of achieving that. Our highways officers, at the end of the day, are our in-house experts on how to do this, and I defer to them on how to do that properly. There are a few parts that are added in with this amendment about safe routes to schools. I fully support that. I'm glad to see that that safe route to school programme is forthcoming. But I felt that this motion was important to bring tonight, not just because of that anniversary, but to note that it has been ultimately 3 years now since that accident happened, since that tragedy happened, I should say. And as yet, there haven't been any changes made to that road crossing. We must act as a council, and it is incumbent upon us as councillors tonight to take that action and to press ahead with that. Now, I've been specific as well in the wording in requiring whatever decision is made with this crossing to be fed into that Safe Routes to School programme, with the express reason of making sure that if this is the most prominent crossing in the minds of Swindon residents, where children can be in danger of crossing on their route to school, that should surely feed into how we make sure that we secure all of our school crossings to make sure all of our children can get to school safely. So I won't take up any more of your time, and I hope that you can all support this motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Councillor Smith, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now, thank you.
Okay.
Chair, members, before we begin, I want to stress the importance of approaching this discussion with care. The coroner's response is still awaited, and Harry Parker's family continues to navigate an incredible, difficult time. Today marks 3 years since the tragic loss of Harry Parker, a bright, popular 14-year-old who was simply walking to school along Acres Way when his life was cut short. Our first duty is to pay tribute to Harry and to extend our deepest respect to his family. Their strength in grief has been extraordinary. Through the Harry's Get Home Safely campaign, they have turned unimaginable pain into a call for change, installing 20-mile-per-hour banners, raising awareness, and even inspiring a proposed law to tighten penalties for unlicensed drivers involved in collisions. I am grateful to Will Stone MP for pushing the law change forward, and our motion calls for the leader to write to the Roads Minister to push for real changes and to make it easier to prosecute these in these circumstances. This motion reflects the campaign work of Harry's family and the community's determination to prevent another tragedy. It also recognises the steps already taken, such as Acres Way being earmarked for AMPR cameras to deter speeding, and the additional funding that allows us to launch a borough-wide Safe Routes to School campaign in 2026. But we know more must be done. Acres Way is a critical crossing for Nova Heritage students. The proposals to raise the crossing and explore converting it are practical suggestions that can make a real difference. If we can see that there is an evidence base that shows they can make journeys safer, then we will look to introduce them. These changes, alongside a town-wide school safety strategy, will help that ensure that every child has a safer journey to their school, no matter where it is in the borough. This is not about party politics. It is about responsibility and about learning from tragedy and acting decisively to protect lives. By supporting this motion, we send a clear message that Harry's legacy will be safer streets for all our children. Thank you.
Thank you. I open up now for the debate. Councillor Robbins, and anyone else please indicate.
Thank you. It's unbelievable to be joined by Harry's family today. You can see how emotional it is for you both. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the amazing campaigning work that you've carried out since the terrible tragedy. I think we all want to make sure that we try and support you and get the right work done to the junction as quickly as we can. I think it's really important that we listen to you and listen to our highways experts to try and make sure that we can come up with the safest possible way of dealing with that crossing and do everything we can about other crossings around the town. I know that you've got some concerns about the zebra crossing. We'll certainly listen to you to make sure that we're taking those into account. But I think in light of the emotion that's going on, I think it's probably sensible that we move to the vote and just get this all agreed as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Are we happy to move to the vote? I'm just aware, yeah? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we will move this motion to the vote. Can I, though the motion Acres Way road safety, can I have all those in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just congratulate Tom Smith for his maiden speech?
Yeah, that was thank you very much. That was a important one. Thank you. Thank you very much. So moving on then to motion H, street trees. Councillor Tom Butcher, would you move the 8th motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and to Councillor Ali's point, would like to also congratulate Councillor Smith on making his maiden speech tonight. Very pleased to see. So, on to our motion on street trees. This is a very timely motion. It's National Tree Week. I was very pleased to see on the Council's Facebook, on their social media, them promoting that, and specifically promoting a number of things which I'm calling out in this motion as well. So I'm hoping that that is some foreshadowing from the Labour group that they will be supporting this motion tonight. So, to talk about the importance of trees on our streets specifically, they provide a number of benefits, as called out in the motion. They provide shading and cooling for our homes and our communities. They improve the air quality, especially around our homes. They provide important flood prevention measures by absorbing more of the groundwater and allowing it to be more regulated. They provide biodiversity habitats to increase nature across our town. And they ultimately provide climate resilience, which, as we know, with climate change in full effect at the moment, that is something that we desperately need, especially around Swindon, to be more resilient. We've certainly seen a number of roads flooding recently, and it is my belief that by planting trees in those streets, that will help diminish that. Now, as I say, Swindon Borough Council's own comms this week has highlighted that the importance of planting trees, particularly through our Great Western Community Forest work, which has been running for around 3 decades now. As part of that, it highlighted specifically the importance of on-street and urban trees as part of that mix. This, as I state in the motion, is a fully funded plan. It pulls funding from our Trees for Climate pot that we already have, that is used to plant our community forests currently, and uses some of that, which is currently being underspent, I should add, on planting trees around our streets. It includes 15 years of maintenance, so as to assuage any fears from people that they will simply be planted and then not maintained properly. Now, I will acknowledge street trees can be much more complex in places than simply planting trees in green open space. There's underground utilities to contend with. There are pavement widths. There are grass verges being suitable or not. But those complexities should not negate the importance or our ability to achieve it. We have a very able group of officers within our Great Western Community Forest team who I have every confidence will be able to deliver this policy to full effect. Now, as part of the motion as well, I've also called for a right tree, right place approach. This, again, speaks to that importance of making sure that we're not planting trees where some may feel are inappropriate, where a pavement isn't wide enough, or where it may cause damage. We can select the right species of tree that is suitable for a roadside and install it effectively with the right tree pit installed as well. Now, I've also required that we do public consultation on this, in particular with working with our parishes who form a crucial part of our community and often the front door for a lot of community services, and further to engage with residents. I would love to see a programme of this, of residents being able to request a tree. And actually, if you look at other towns around the country that run programmes like this, that is exactly what happens. They have residents that sponsor their own trees in their own streets and will even pitch in towards some of the maintenance, making sure that they're watered effectively in summer when it's particularly dry, and making sure that they're well kept. It allows our residents ultimately to feel that sense of pride in places we talked about earlier tonight, of pride in their community and of greening their community. Now, this is a council and administration that is committed to building a greener Swindon, ultimately. This policy entirely aligns with that aim. It is an aim shared by ourselves in the Greens and Labour in making sure our town is the greenest it can be. Now, I talked a little bit about public consultation. We actually ran a consultation just earlier this week on it, and I was very pleased to be joined by Deputy Leader Councillor Bushell and Councillor Davies in that consultation, where I was pleased to be invited to attend a local Cubs meeting as part of Parliament Week, where we were talking about local politics. I'm even more pleased to announce that this received overwhelming support from a room full of 10-year-olds. And if we're looking at the future of our town and where we're planting our trees, we got 100% of the vote on the night, and that was in face of stiff opposition from the deputy leader, who was promising Wednesday was off school. So, frankly, if a room full of 10-year-olds can recognise how crucial and important this policy is, I'm sure we all can as well, can't we? So, I'll end there, and I'd just like to invite members to hopefully support this motion, recognising what it can deliver for our town, greening our streets and greening our community, and providing more tree coverage across the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bigham, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
I'd like to speak now, Madam Mayor.
Go for it.
Apologies in advance. In light of Harry's parents' reactions, I'm a bit shaken, so please forgive me if I do stumble. I'm happy to second this motion, because what we have before us today is not merely a proposal about planting trees. It's a commitment to shaping a healthier, greener and more resilient Swindon for decades to come. It's great to see that this week alone the council and councillors have been involved in planting trees across the town, and it's particularly great to see that 80 trees in my ward having been planted to commemorate 80 years since the end of the Second World War. I thank all those involved in the planning and implementing of this initiative. Thank you. This motion looks to build on some of these initiatives and go one step further. Street trees offers an extraordinary range of benefits for our communities. They soften the hard edges of our urban spaces, adding life, texture and colour to our streets. They help connect residents, businesses and visitors with nature right outside the front doors. They improve the quality of the air we breathe and absorb CO2, actions that are increasingly essential in the face of the climate crisis. Trees cool our towns during the hotter months. They reduce the risk of flooding by absorbing rainwater. They create vital habitats for wildlife and shape green corridors that reconnect fragmented ecosystems. They even raise property values, and importantly, they help build a sense of pride, identity, and ownership in our neighbourhoods. Despite all these well-known benefits, too many areas of Swindon still lack the urban tree coverage that residents deserve, and while flooding has become more frequent and severe, we are still not fully utilising a major tool available to us, our Trees for Climate funding. This funding not only provides capital to plant new trees, but also covers 15 years of maintenance. It is fully funded, already allocated to us, and currently underspent. Yes, that's right, we have the money. We have a clear environmental need, and we have a strategic policy, our own tree management policy and the Great Western Community Forest Plan, both of which commit us to increasing tree canopy cover. In other words, the pieces are already in place. What has been missing is the political will to turn these commitments into delivery on the ground. The motion gives us that opportunity. The programme outlined here is both practical and collaborative. By working with parishes and communities on a right tree, right place principle, we can plant the most suitable species in the most suitable location, ensuring the long-term success of this project and strong community support. This is not about imposing trees on people. It is about working with them to design greener, healthier neighbourhoods. And crucially, this motion sets a clear timeline calling for a full rollout programme by May 2026, ready for implementation in the following planting season. That kind of forward planning is exactly what we need to deliver a meaningful, sustainable increase in urban tree cover. This is a chance to leave a legacy that future generations will thank us for, a chance to make our streets cooler, cleaner, safer and more beautiful, a chance to turn unused funding into real environmental and social value for every corner of Swindon. I urge members to support this motion wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we open up to debate. Is there any members that wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Chandler and then Councillor Courtliff. And Councillor Schwanzowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think anyone who knows me well knows that I'm particularly passionate about this subject as a parish councillor and a volunteer tree warden. It is National Tree Week, as Councillor Butcher alluded to, the beginning of the main tree planting season. Our own parish in St Andrews is exactly the type of area where I think this type of focus could benefit residents and the planet. Since joining the parish council and having organised several of these large-scale tree plants over the last 4 years, 2,000, 3,000, 4,500 trees in a session, sooner or later you begin to get smaller and smaller sites and eventually run out of good places to plant trees. No one is advocating for planting trees over every open space, of course. That would be ridiculous. It's worth remembering that, you know, even as people who are green-fingered, there needs to be public amenity space for picnics, for recreation, for playing sports, etc. And yes, allotments are on that list. These need to be viewed under a different rubric of serving a different environmental purpose. Street planting does present new challenges, but in my opinion, these are hardly insurmountable. There also needs to be a re-emphasis, I think, in this town of replanting existing street trees when they need to be removed. A mature English oak, for example, can support species in excess of 2,000. Losing just one of these obviously has knock-ons for biodiversity, and cutting one down only to leave the space empty is incredibly short-sighted. So I think this policy has legs. We should start by replacing diseased and dead trees before establishing a schedule of streets where this could be done, moving through a programme year by year, working with our parish councils. Again, on balance, to take St Andrews as an example, there are clearly areas where this is not possible. Poor planning 25 years ago has led to inadequate parking in much of the ward, but it's definitely worth exploration as an idea. So on this, I will be supporting the Green councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Courtliff and then Councillor Strinowski. Councillor Adams afterwards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some councillors may think that beauty sleep is more important than democratic debate, but I think this is a really valid motion to bring forward. Trees, not only do they provide the environmental benefits, they provide benefits to people as well, reducing stress, anxiety, improving mood, increasing focus, and some studies have shown them to reduce cortisol levels. And when we're in the midst of various mental health crises, I think the addition of more trees to the borough is a good thing in that respect. And also from a planning perspective, There's nothing worse than going down a new build estate and seeing an absence of greenery and trees. And one of the few worthwhile things that came out of the previous government's planning reforms, the Building Better, Building Beautiful Commission did produce a report, and part of that was that the government should commit to a radical plan to plant 2 million new street trees within 5 years, create new community orchards, plant a fruit tree for every home. And I think these sorts of things go towards creating a sense of place and well-being in new builds. One only need go down, say, the Mall or Goddard Avenue in Old Town just to see the effect that trees have on creating that sense of neighbourhood. And in Wroughton we have some beautiful tree planting, so I'm happy to support the motion brought forward by Councillor Butcher and Begum, and I'd encourage everyone to also support it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Swindowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to begin, I want to just correct a few inaccuracies that crept into this motion. So the Council is categorically not underspending the Trees for Climate funding. TFC grant monies are allocated based on predicted planting hectares per season. And each season, SBC is being awarded more funding as a result of exceeding its targets on the previous season. There very definitely is a pipeline of planting for 2026, and work on it has already begun. And there, in fact, have not been just 80 trees planted in Lydiard Park, but 1,000, of which the 80 Oaks Memorial is just a particularly meaningful part. And there's also been planting going on elsewhere, because right now November is the height of the planting season. In fact, the Council has been awarded a second phase of Trees for Climate funding in recognition of the sterling work of officers implementing the first phase of the program. It's also worth noting that a lot of planting, and especially in the urban areas, is delivered by the parishes, and that they are also doing great work. And I know many of you are parish councillors as well, and you will know that, in greening their own areas. A few examples of specifically urban tree planting include, but are not limited to, this is literally off the top of my head, Shepherd Street Pocket Park, London Street and the Railway Village tree planting as part of the Heritage Action Zone, Fleet and Bridge Street planting plan, and of course the Fleming Way planting and landscaping. There have been 10,000 trees planted across the borough in 2025 and 50,000 trees planted across the borough since 2020. I utterly reject, therefore, the implication contained in the motion that either this administration or the Council's officers haven't prioritised canopy creation and urban green space. Furthermore, the strategic tree management policies referenced in the motion is a risk strategy document and not a policy for urban environmental enhancement. This is not to say that such plans do not exist, however, which is what the motion goes on to imply. The Council has submitted for consultation plans to create a green infrastructure network that will connect the key green nodes across the borough and will maintain, enhance, and where missing, create green space and canopy cover along active travel routes, many if not most of which are streets. There are also refreshed plans being prepared as part of the local plan for the Great Western Community Forest, which will include an extension of canopy cover into more urban areas, which is an area of focus for the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, who are our partner in delivering a lot of this planting. They're very interested specifically in bringing more trees into town centre as part of the partnership that we are in with them. And a specific policy is also being prepared under the local plan for greening the Grey Corridor, which is self-explanatory. The Heart of Swindon vision document also speaks specifically to the green streets and green gateways ambition, along with the creation of new pocket parks and additional planting in rain gardens along main travel routes. Again, those will mostly be streets and big roads. Planting plans need to make sense, as Councillor Chandler acknowledged rightly, in the area for which they are being proposed. Now, just to give a couple of examples, the area with the lowest tree cover in the whole of the borough is what is today the Central Ward. Now that instinctively immediately makes sense. It's got the railway line going through the middle of it, and all of the associated infrastructure makes it really difficult to plant in, right? So it would be really difficult to increase tree cover in that ward. Now that said, the third lowest tree cover in the borough is in the Ridgeway ward, which is all fields. Now, you know, so if we're just like looking at numbers and its statistics and just put in an improvement plan on ambition as a bulk policy and not look at things in context, then they're not going to make sense. And also the trees are going to die because they will be planted on top of services, on top of gas pipes that weren't there 50 years ago when the previous trees were there, when the houses were built, and so on and so forth. So we really need to be strategic, and those strategic plans do exist. Now, the riposte to all of everything that I've just said might be that, yes, thank you, exactly, you're doing fantastic work, then why not write it down and put it somewhere, put it in front of the Build a Greener Swindon committee so that we can all read it. But I didn't get any of that out of my head. I'm not that good. It's already
30
out
seconds.
there, right? I looked all of this up on the new SBC, new local plan website, under the green infrastructure section, which has 5, parts of the green infrastructure plan and then about 7 additional documents attached. It took me half an hour. It would take officers significantly more to prepare and present reports to committees about all of this stuff. I would suggest that it is not the best use of council resources to have officers regurgitate already available information. And for that reason, I call on the council to reject
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, we've got Councillor Adams and then Councillor Sumner and then Councillor Gardner and then I think we're back to Councillor Butcher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start by welcoming our Green comrades. I'm not sure, is that the right word? Green comrades to the chamber. Diversity of thought in this chamber is a strength, not a weakness. So welcome. As somebody who spent several years of my life living in Tenerife, which some of you may know is an extremely hot country, I have first-hand experience of the difference tree-lined streets make versus streets that don't have trees. Now, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that we're going to get those sorts of temperatures in this country, but it is, without a shadow of a doubt, we are getting warmer, so we do need to take these things into account. Now, myself and Councillor Chandler here, are from a ward that's relatively new. Everything there has been built basically within the last 20 years, and we're already seeing the issue of semi-mature, I'm not a tree expert, but 10, 20-year-old trees having issues, being cut down and simply not replaced for one reason or another. So we are seeing what was originally quite a tree-lined area, again focusing on the pavements and the streets, increasingly becoming less so. So I feel in my ward, especially, in our ward especially, that we are going backwards at the moment. We can look at these figures that generally include large open spaces, which isn't really what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about streets and roads. But the reality is, in my personal opinion, certainly in my ward, that whilst our green spaces may be seeing more trees, the streets and pavements are regressing. And that's certainly something we need to address. So that's certainly why I'll be supporting the motion tonight. I completely disagree with the councillor who appears to be on their phone again. Earlier she said that across the town we are doing better. In my experience, we're simply not. So again, I'll be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Sumner, Councillor Gardner, and then Councillor Small, and Councillor Watts, and Councillor Davies.
I'll keep it exceptionally brief, Madam Mayor, bearing in mind the arms that are springing up. I just did note, as Councillor Strinkowski pointed out, the interesting lack of trees in Ridgeway Ward. It is a huge ward. We are working with the tree team at Swindon Borough Council at the moment to plant 3/4 of a mile of hedgerows and trees on Purley Road in Liddington. However, I think this is a good motion from Councillor Butcher, and certainly I will be supporting it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Let me just check. We've got Councillor Summers spoken. We've got Councillor Gardner, Councillor Small, Councillor Chris Watts, Councillor Davies, and Councillor Vallander. And then I think we're back to Councillor Butcher. Right then, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. So speaking of trees, I'm definitely in favour of this motion. Now, I found it interesting, Councillor Strinkowski spoke of 50,000 trees have been planted since 2020. Now, very familiar, Highworth, I think, contributed over 35,000 of those 50. in Pentylands. And I personally could account for 2 or 3, I think, I planted. My kids did more. But it was, yeah, definitely a great exercise for the community, bringing everyone together, and we're now benefiting years later from the maturity of them. Though this motion is about street trees, that's the title of the motion. Now, the only learnings that I'd stress that everyone that is wanting to encourage this in their own communities do is make sure that the type of tree is researched. Now, back in 2017, when I was mayor of Highworth, we had the unfortunate situation of having to cut down the tree on our podium. Much loved, people were up and very distressed about it, but it was a large tree that was wrongly chosen and had outgrown, destroying the surface of the podium, making it hazardous for people walking across. It was a good example of just right intentions, but the wrong choice. Now, that's repeated across Swindon. Just in Highworth, outside, on Brewery Street, outside of our co-op, there are 2, maybe 3 large London planes. They're only 19 years old. I can't put my hand around them. Their trunks are that big, and they're growing fast. Now, they had to have pavement repair done only this summer, which again caused a lot of distress in the community because they thought we were killing the trees, the way that the pavements have been put back in. The trees are fine, their roots are mature, and they're going to continue to grow, and if anything, kind of cost highways even more money, probably every 18 to 24 months as they grow, because they were the wrong choice. So I'm absolutely all for this. I think where it's been done properly and roots have been constrained so that growth is maintained and the right selection was taken in the first place, it's a brilliant thing and we should see more of it. So I fully support this, but with caution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Small.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do think that Councillor Gardner's points over the right trees and the pavements is a very valid point. It's interesting, our previous motion we just had was talking about highway maintenance and repairs and stuff like that. And one of the biggest problems with where you've got trees in streets is that the roots come up and you've got an obstacle to go over. On many occasions, you just have to look at the old trees that are there in many areas, not just in Swindon, but across the country. I know in one particular, in Canterbury, we're near to the cricket ground. When I go and watch the cricket, it's like an assault course going down one particular street. We're having to go over the tree stumps. So there has to be caution. But my main reason for speaking, and the reason why, and so for that reason, that's why we'll be not supporting. But I do think the principle of planting trees is right, 100%. But this assumption that's been had by several speakers now that the borough is not planting trees is totally wrong. And I would suggest that they look at I think the last, I didn't say you, Councillor Butcher, I said I was a general comment. There was one councillor in particular, but I'm not going to give him the right to reply by not mentioning his name. Is that I would suggest that you look at the cabinet papers for the last meeting, where we accepted the new grant for tree planting due to the fact that the previous grant had been spent, and whether they be in a large, which Councillor Gardner said maybe in Highworth, or whether they've been across the borough. We have met those numbers, and we are continuing to do so. And there is a commitment, and a commitment which started under the Conservative administration. You know, fair play. You know, I'm no qualms on that. But it's something there has been cross-party agreement on, that there is tree planting needs to be done. It's an important part. But the motion on streets, which is with this key point, I think Councillor Gardner's made a very valid point, and that's one of the reasons why I will not be supporting it this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to bring a point that there tends to be 2 types of motions that come to this council. That those that are normally they're all put in 10 days before, and there are those that are politically motivated. No, they're not going to be supported, but it gives everyone's day in the Swindon Advertiser. But there's other motions that if there was more than 10 days, if those councillors, for example, Councillor Gardner's motion and this motion had been actually put forward a bit earlier and people had come and spoken to us first, that we could have actually formed something that had the right information that we all agreed with, and we could have moved forward. And I'm just saying this, there just appears to be a cultural issue that we all think that having to do this 10 days before to keep it to ourselves, and we end up having a motion that can't be supported where we can do better. I think we can do better. And I'll just leave that with you. It's not to the motion. I'm really sorry, Madam Mayor. It's just a gripe.
Right, we've got Councillor Davies, Councillor Valentine, and Councillor Heath, and then back to Councillor Butcher. And can I encourage you, if you're going to speak, to bring new stuff in rather than revisit the things we're doing? Right, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a fresh point. I think I've done as much as any councillor in the past few years to protect green spaces in my ward, and I've also met regularly with the teams looking at planting more trees in Eldene. It's worth noting that trees are a significant part of my ward inbox and a frequent topic of discussion on the doorstep, as they are for others. There are problems with subsidence, problems with leaves and fruit falling into people's gardens, and problems with entire areas of pavement being damaged by mature trees. Locally in Leiden, we also have significant problems with trees that are not adopted by SBC, where we cannot actually look after them properly in the way that we want, because they're actually on private land. All in all, whenever I've had dealings with the tree team at SBC, I've been struck with their levels of professionalism and knowledge, doing their very best with the limited resources they are left with after decades of austerity. We saw only last week a huge tree come down in Queen's Drive. It's very odd for the Conservatives to be speaking in support of more street trees when by their actions over the past couple of decades, they forced the limitation of resources to protect the existing stock. I think street trees are an excellent idea, but we need to be sensible, as Councillor Strinkowski has said, and look at the situation in the round. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Valentine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep my remarks brief just so that I don't interrupt Councillor Ali's beauty sleep tonight. I want to thank Councillor Butcher for bringing this forward. I know it's something he's incredibly passionate about. In fact, I remember when I joined Stratton Parish Council back in 2022, this is one of the first things that he ever mentioned at one of the first meetings I was at. So I'm pleased to see that it's one of the first motions the Greens are bringing forward. I'm very pleased to be supporting this, and I think there's significant sections of Stratton and Colview and South Marsden that could benefit from wider street tree planting. I'm a little surprised, though, to hear that it was more popular than Wednesdays off school, but there we go. No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heath.
This is a street trees motion, so just in case people have lost the ability to listen, just want to reiterate that. But I think the bit that I really liked about the way Councillor Butcher mentioned this was a chance for community engagement. So people that may be living in streets that maybe don't look so pretty and that had the opportunity to maybe vote for a space where they could actually have a tree, and I thought this would be exactly the sort of thing that we as a council would want to endorse. So I'm a bit surprised that we just kind of shut the door on this. But for me, it's pretty simple. You either think it's a good idea or you don't. It's not really political. But this street trees motion, really just consider it as it is, as beautifying the streets and giving residents a chance to make their local areas more better.
Thank you very much. Well, Councillor Butcher, would you like to bring us home?
Absolutely, I would. Thank you for those that have spoken in support of this motion this evening. I'd like to speak to a few of the points raised, and there's been an awful lot because we've had a lot of speakers on this one, surprisingly. Hopefully I can get through it in the 5 minutes summing up. I'd like to speak first to the Cabinet Member for Placemaking's points on inaccuracies, despite the fact she's offered far more of her own than the ones she feels that she's highlighted. The claims that it was being underspent was from feedback that I've had previously from officers. The claims that they spent all of the money are hollow in the fact that they've spent that money because that deadline was extended from the original funding. Trees for Climate funding is funding that was given originally under a Conservative government and was extended by the Labour government until they could decide to finally offer some more funding on it. The reason you've been able to deliver more trees on that is because you were underspending on it and you weren't going to spend it by the end of the deadline, but it was extended by over a year. Now, there's been a lot of points made by the Cabinet Member, particularly around trees being planted elsewhere. I don't dispute that. It's very clear that there are trees being planted elsewhere. I've seen the photos. I've been involved in planting a number of them myself, as have many councillors in this room. But that does not negate the point of this motion, that this is specifically about planting trees on streets. Now, we can point to town centre rejuvenation and things like that. Again, great, very pleased to see trees going in along Fleming Way, etc. But that doesn't solve the problem in existing communities, particularly in our outer-lying communities in the town. We are a very sprawling town, and there are many areas where it's missing. To the point on the 10,000 trees being planted a year, again, I'm not disputing that, but to argue that that is you planting more trees is, again, simply dishonest. It is, in fact, planting the same exact number of trees as the Conservative administration planted in their time, as the data clearly shows on the council website, 50,000 since 2020, and a further announcement in 2024 that you planted just under 10,000 a year. It's keeping track with what they were doing. It's not building a greener Swindon, really, is it, guys? So, saying that active travel routes was mentioned, many of which are streets. Yes, a lot of our active travel routes are streets, many in my ward are streets, because we lack proper dedicated active travel routes in this town, particularly in some of our older wards, such as Stratton St Margaret, where people that use active travel, such as cycling, are forced onto the road, but those are not tree-lined roads. My ward is fairly devoid of street trees in a number of places where it could quite easily be added, such as Oxford Road, such as Grange Drive, such as many other areas across the ward and many of your wards as well. Ridgeway Ward was mentioned, which is all fields. Yes, fields are monoculture. That is not bringing biodiversity, and there's not street trees. I don't see us putting trees other than a closed Southern Connector road that's not planned to be open anytime soon through the middle of those green fields, actually. There was a question on why not put it in front of the Greener Swindon Committee, so I'd quite like to speak to that. There was also a question from the Cabinet Member for Environment, or a point made from the Cabinet Member for Environment, about why this was only brought 10 days beforehand. So I'd like to give a bit of the background to this motion, because that is simply not accurate at all. I first drafted this motion in September 2023. I went back and checked my emails to find the wording of it, to refresh it for now. I drafted it in collaboration with our officers in the Great Western Community Forest team. It had their full buy-in. I brought it to the Labour group that I was a member of at the time, and we voted internally and agreed to support it wholeheartedly. I was then told, but don't worry, we don't need to do it as a motion, we'll simply have a Cabinet Member decision note on it. There was no such note brought forward. After a number of months of waiting, I brought it back to the leadership of the Labour group and said, what are we doing about this? And I was told, actually, we can have a quick win for our Building a Greener Swindon Committee. Let's put it to there. And I've spoken with the chairs of that since then and asked, can we put it on that committee? Can we do that? Numerous times. It has not happened. So the Labour group have acknowledged years ago that they would like to support this. They have stood on a platform of building a greener Swindon. I, in fact, myself delivered many leaflets with my own face and a Labour rosette on at the time, stating that we would build these, would plant these street trees. This was Labour Party policy for a long time. It just was never actioned. So I've brought this motion today because I've finally been able to bring it since moving to being a Green councillor, because we have more ability actually as Green councillors to be able to put forward things like this and not to have them disappear into an empty pit
30
within the Labour group.
Councillor Butcher.
Second, sorry. Thank you. So, to sum up, I would have liked it to have gone to the Building Greener Swindon Committee. I would have liked for the Labour group to have supported it, as they had indicated long ago that they would. I think they need to ask themselves, especially with elections coming around in 6 months' time, when you are pledging to build a greener Swindon, how are you doing that when you vote down motions to green people's streets and communities? I will finalise with a favourite quote of mine. Society grows great when old men plant trees under the shade of which they will never sit. Now, I might not be that older man right now, but I would like
Councillor
to
Butcher.
plant these trees for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the vote. Is Council content to agree the motion street trees? Can we have all those in favour, please, indicating? Many thanks. And all those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, I do declare that vote lost. Councillor Tom Butcher, are you okay to move the final motion, Yo-Yo Council Homes, please?
Yes, thank you. And I think next time we have the agenda, can mine be split up throughout it? Thanks, guys. So, Yo-Yo Homes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I brought this motion after reading an article which I've shared in the motion in the big issue, which opened with Swindon as an example. It pointed, I believe, to Frobisher Drive and a house, which was a council house sold and bought there by the council. I'd like to start by explaining what is a yo-yo home, because this was actually a new term to me, but actually once you understand what it means, it will be quite familiar to all of us as councillors. A yo-yo home is ultimately a council home which is sold to a tenant through the right to buy for a heavily discounted price, which inevitably, as in the example given in the article, is purchased back only a short few years later by the same council, Swindon Borough Council, to be put back into their housing stock. But in that process, councils, and Swindon in this example, loses a lot of money. So this example gave, the council sold the house for £30,000. They bought it back 5 years later for £150,000, and then they had to implement nearly £10,000 in repairs to it as well. A net loss of £130,000 on one home. Now, Swindon was chosen to be featured in this article because of its long waiting list in council housing, over 4 years waiting list, in fact. That's a waiting list that I've seen firsthand through my work previously being employed in the North Swindon MP's office as to the real scale of that problem, the number of people that affects and the significant impact that has on their lives. There's been increased council spending on temporary accommodation to plug this housing shortfall, with putting families up, often in hotels, for very extended periods of stay, when the reality is that they should be able to access a good quality council home to move into. But we understand there are extreme pressures on the budget. We know that the issues around the council housing stock and the state of its repair, and we know that the council is borrowing £250 million to spend over 5 years on maintaining those. Those are all things that I support wholeheartedly, and we should invest absolutely in our council housing stock. But to specifically focus on the right to buy, the right to buy in this instance is clearly driving these cost pressures on our council housing. It's driving cost pressures particularly on taxpayers through our housing revenue account being depleted of very necessary funds to fix and improve and expand our council housing stock. Now, I acknowledge the Labour government has announced that they are planning to reform the right to buy system. There has been a consultation done. There was meant to be information published already, I believe, on the outcome of that. But it's my opinion, having seen the information that they intend to go with there, that this reform simply doesn't go far enough. It doesn't provide councils the ability to actually finance the building of new stock of houses, which is ultimately what they need to do to improve the scale of houses that are available. It doesn't protect the existing stock. It will protect new builds, and I acknowledge that, and that is correct that they do so, but it does not protect those existing ones. So our existing council housing stock of around 10,000 houses are all still susceptible to right to buy, to be purchased by those tenants, and for inevitably the council to possibly have to buy them back. Now, right to buy, in my opinion, since its inception by Margaret Thatcher in the 80s, has been what has driven a huge issue within our housing crisis, has driven our council housing crisis, and more widely our housing crisis in general. We have to understand that council housing, public sector housing and private sector housing are completely linked. If the public sector market is not competing properly, the private sector runs rampant, as we see. House prices are driven up massively, and the only way that that will be fixed, in my humble opinion, is to make sure that the public sector is properly competing with that. Now, ultimately, I would love to see the government be much bigger, dare I say even bolder in their aspirations with what they do with right to buy. Personally, I would rather see it cancelled altogether. I know again that that is a view shared by a number of the Labour group, because we've had that discussion also in the past. Ultimately though, this motion sets out to simply identify the scale of this problem. We want to know how many houses have been sold in this manner and further bought back, and the total amount lost from the housing revenue account through doing that. It is important that residents of Swindon have the ability to view that information in its full transparency, and I call on all of you in this chamber to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for moving the motion. Can we just confirm we have a seconder? And would you like to speak now, Councillor Edwards, or reserve your right?
Yeah, I'll speak now, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Councillor Butcher, for explaining what yo-yo housing is. I'd like to look a little bit a different way of going around this, is why do we actually need council housing, which would be a bit of a daft question in a room full of councillors and council officers, because we should all know the answer to that. Either way, I tapped it into my laptop at home, why do we need council houses? And this answer came up. It said, council houses exist to provide secure, affordable and stable housing for people who cannot afford to rent or buy on the open market, including those on lower incomes or in vulnerable situations. They were initially created to address housing shortages and to ensure everyone has access to a decent home and more secure tenancies. Sorry, I forgot my glasses. I'm struggling a bit with this one. So, yes, please, Kev. I defy anybody in this room to disagree with that, and if you do disagree with that, you shouldn't really be here. A quick history of council houses is they've been being built for over 100 years now. In Swindon, the first ones were built in 1890 in Pinehurst, and a lot of the houses, council houses back then, all over the country, well built, solid, still standing. Good quality houses is what we need. They're built for a reason, council houses. They're not built for fun. An example, after the Second World War, the Labour government in 1945 put in place the largest council housing building programme ever to house the 4 million on the waiting list. Probably the best government we ever had, shows what bold governments with good intentions can achieve as well. My parents, who served 6 years in the forces during the whole of the Second World War, were on that 4 million waiting list. They had to wait 4 years to get a house with 2 little kids. When they moved into the brand new council house, my mother described it as the best thing she'd ever seen. The relief must have been amazing for them. Labour only lasted 1 term. They were voted out, even though they got more votes than the Tories. That's a different conversation. But the council house issue was still on the agenda. The Tory governments of Churchill, Eden and Macmillan said they would build more council houses than Labour. The Macmillan government did achieve that, but they changed the word house to homes. And what they did was they took a typical example of a street that would have had 12 well-sized council houses with gardens a working class family could live in with dignity, and ripped it up and turned it into 36 flats, often ill-built, thin walls where you could hear the next door neighbour putting the kettle on, and by the 1990s most of these were ripped down. I'm going to get there in a minute as to the right to buy, don't worry. I was lucky, I grew up in the 1970s. It was probably the best decade ever. What have you ever heard about the 1970s isn't true. It was fantastic. People were happier back then and more content with their lot. There was a terrible catastrophe happened in the 1970s, and it still lives with us today, and we're still trying to find answers to the housing problems it brought with it. And that catastrophe was Margaret Thatcher. She introduced a thing called the Right to Buy scheme. And the Right to Buy scheme, to this day, has caused us so many problems, I've lost now, that we're still trying to sort out. So, sorry, 1 second. Television. Oh, I don't know, I'm lost. Yeah. Well, yeah. Councils were forced to sell homes at extraordinarily cheap and ridiculous prices. They still are to this day, increasing rate willingness and putting an extra burden on society. And then on occasion, sued by the buyer back then, who'd bought inadequate housing. We've already given examples today of the unfair costs on the council and the taxpayer that's still going on today in the forms of yo-yo council houses. We need to end this farce. There are reforms being put in place. We don't think they go far enough. This motion simply asks us to look at the issues of yo-yo housing and everything that's wrong with it. It's just one part of a greater picture of how do we ensure that we can put an end to the housing crisis in this town. We need to explore every option and look at every avenue. We need to explore every avenue and option to us to ensure we've got council houses for the future. That's about it, really.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I just ask you to turn your mic off? Well done, you got through. I'm now opening up the debate. Is there any members that wish to speak? Councillor Heenan and then Councillor Howarth.
It was only to say that the Conservatives are supporting this motion. While whatever you may think about it when it comes to Right to Buy and Thatcher and years gone past, really don't care. I think it's a bit perverse, what the issue that you have highlighted, and I think that's perfectly pertinent. I've not heard of it in the past. Why not ask for an information report to understand what's really going? Between March 2024 and March 2025, there were 11 fewer council houses in our stock, partly because of Right to Buy. It was not replaced under this Labour Council. And over the next few years, despite borrowing over £200 million, we will still finish that programme with fewer council houses. We should not be refurbishing it, allowing Right to Buy, and then buy back those properties from the new owners. This seems a perfectly reasonable request for a report, set out the facts, and see where we go from there.
Thank you. I have Councillor Howarth and then Councillor Courtliff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've looked at this motion and feel it needs some points addressing. It calls for a report based on the last 10 years. What has gone before cannot be changed, and there is now new welcome legislation from the Labour government. They recognise councils have been punished by the Conservative government for retaining their stock. The home ownership and right to buy introduced by Margaret Thatcher continued in 2012 by offering huge discounts to tenants under the right to buy scheme. Alongside this, councils could not retain all the receipts and it needed to be spent within 5 years. Prior to the election in July 2024, this Labour Council joined forces with Southwark Council and other councils and the LGA to lobby the Conservative government of the time and the future Labour government over social housing. Under the right to buy section, there were 5 recommendations to tackle the issues of council losing stock and yo-yo homes, as it's been referred to. 1. Reduce discounts. Done. November 24 saw the end to the maximum discount of £102,000 and Swindon's maximum is now £30,000. It will be capped at 5% and 1% for every year to the maximum of 15%. 2. Keep 100% of the receipts. Done. From 2027, this will be the case. 3. Extension of time to spend the receipts. Done. From 2027, it will increase from 5 to 10 years before returning to the Treasury and Homes for England. 4. The length of time before you can buy. Done. Extended from 3 years to 10 years. 5. End the right to buy on new build. Not quite done. Extended to 35 years to allow councils to recoup money spent. This was achieved by working collectively and cooperatively by councils who understood the pain of waiting lists, decrease in stock and homelessness. I am proud that this Labour Swindon Council was part of that change. I understand there's more to do, there's always more to do. But working cooperatively, we have seen the Renters' Right Act finally passed, ending Section 21 no-fault evictions. Legislation happening to end the medieval leaseholder system for a more cooperative common
Point of order,
hold.
not speaking to the motion.
This again has been achieved collectively, I will in a minute, and Swindon Labour Cooperative Council being a part of that. To address the big issue article, which is where this began, with 8 Frobisher Drive, sold in March 2021. Let's look back at the two systems. Assuming the article figures and the maximum discount that was quoted, it was sold for £150,000 back to the council. And so therefore it must have been on the market with the £102,000 for a figure of £132,000. I haven't included the repair figures in that. Under the Conservatives, with the maximum discount of £102,000, 30k sold to the tenant, bought for £150,000. The tenant made £120,000 profit. Under the new Labour scheme, the maximum discount of 30k, sold for £102,000 to the tenant, bought back at £150,000, the profit would have only been £18k. We do not buy back without an independent survey and valuation, and we do not always buy back. We have a fiscal responsibility to our tenants to spend their money wisely, as none of this comes from council tax money, but tenants' money. Since we have come into administration, we have purchased 5 general needs properties. Under the same previous administration timescale, there was 28 general needs properties purchased. I have said before, I am a roll-up-my-sleeves girl and get on with the job. That is also the best use of officers' time and this government's time. Get on with it as we are doing. The information is always available to councillors if they want it, and I suggest they ask for it if they need it, rather than bring a motion such as this, wasting officers' time, and for that reason, we will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Courtliff, did you indicate, Councillor Courtliff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have an issue with this personally, and that's the reform side of right to buy and the manner in which the motion has been put forward. personally, I mean, cards on the table, the house I live in at the moment was a right to buy property from the previous owners. We wouldn't have been able to afford to move to Broughton if it wasn't for right to buy them bringing that house on the market. So I feel it'd be hypocritical for me to vote for reform of the system when those reforms aren't stated. I'm going to have to abstain on this, which I know is sitting on the fence and it's going to get me in trouble with my party, but I'm a fan of right to buy. It brought a social leveller to people that otherwise would never have been able to afford to buy their homes in the first place. That was a good policy. It wasn't perfect. Councils should have been able to keep 100% of receipts to reinvest back into the housing market. There were flaws in the system. But the principle of right to buy is a properly conservative policy. And whilst Thatcher was by no means perfect, it was one of the jewels in the crown of that era of government. So on that basis, I'm going to have to upset my colleagues and abstain on this one.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that was our last speaker. Nobody else is indicating. Councillor Butcher, did you want to sum up?
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I'll start by congratulating Councillor Edwards on his maiden speech. I'm glad that he has felt confident in being able to do so since joining the Green Group. To come back to the Cabinet members' points there, you're questioning some of the figures in the article, from what I can tell. I didn't quite follow some of your maths, if I'm honest. But to be clear, the figures in the article come from a freedom of information request that Swindon Borough Council responded to. So if you're questioning their efficacy, I think you need to question somebody else other than me on that one. On your point of we don't always buy back and we only buy back the right ones, etc., we're simply trying to identify with this motion the scale of that. So, you know, you're saying you do or you don't, and that you seem to have information on which ones you do. Share it. You contended that it's not taxpayer money. I don't think I actually specifically... sorry, you said it's not council tax money. I don't think I specifically referred to it as council tax money. I referred to it as taxpayer money. That was my specific wording. That was the same response I had when I shared the big issue article with you, if I recall, originally. Are we saying that... and you're saying it's tenants' money. Are tenants not taxpayers? Do they pay their council tax? I'm assuming they do. Thank you. You made a point as well about ultimately not bringing this as a motion. It's good to see that the classic Labour stance on not having motions and not speaking continues unabated. And finally, to I believe it was Councillor Courtliff's point, you referred to it as the principle of right to buy is a truly conservative policy. I agree. It looks like the fairly rightward sliding Labour group possibly agree with that as well. They seem to be defending the right to buy quite heavily there. So, are you going to vote for it or against it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, as Councillor Heenan rightly points out, this is simply asking for a report to be brought to identify the scale of the amount of money that is lost here. Those questions can continue to be asked, whether it's done through this motion or not. I imagine there will be further freedom of information requests that will try to identify that. And this is a big-scale issue that concerns a lot of people across Swindon, across the country, as to how much money is lost on these. So it seems quite short-sighted to not simply be transparent and provide that information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butcher. So we then move to the vote. Is the council content to agree the motion yo-yo council houses? All those in favour of the motion? Okay, all those against? And any abstentions? Thank you. That vote is lost. Thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item then, which is the minutes of the Cabinet and decisions delegated to Cabinet members. Can I invite the leader to move the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 22nd of October 25 and the Cabinet member delegated decisions as set out on pages 49 to 56 of the agenda pack, please?
Happy to move this table, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Please indicate if you wish to ask a question or make a comment on the minutes of the Cabinet meeting. And if nobody indicates, which I'm not seeing, I will take them on block. Fantastic. Taken on block. Brilliant. Oh, now it's giving me options. Right, please. Oh, no, we don't need to indicate. Okay, right. So, Is the Council therefore content to note the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 22nd of October 25 and the Cabinet member delegated decisions? All those in favour, please show. Fantastic. That looks unanimous. I think that one's carried. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, number 10, which is minutes of other council bodies. I would draw members' attention to the separate council minute book and note all page numbers that's referred to. So, minutes of the meeting of the Standards Committee. Councillor Nadine Watts, will you please present these minutes?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Crilly, will you please present the minutes of the meeting of the Audit Committee as tabled?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Heenan, will you please present the minutes of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee as tabled?
As tabled.
And Councillor Stanker-Wilson, will you please present the minutes of the meeting of the Children's and Adults Overview and Scrutiny Committee as tabled?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Amin, will you please present the minutes of the Policy and Performance Committee, Builder Fairer Swindon, and of the Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Authority as tabled, please?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Junab Ali, will you please present the minutes of the meeting of the Policy and Performance Committee, Builder Better Swindon, and of the Wiltshire Police and Crime Panel as tabled?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Lost me light. Councillor Carol Shelley, will you please present the minutes of the meetings of the Planning Committee as tabled?
As tabled, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor John Borman, will you please present the minutes of the Licensing Subcommittee as tabled? Thank you. And Councillor Robbins, will you please present the minutes of the meeting of the Chief Officer Appointment Subcommittee as tabled?
Happy to move as tabled, Madam Mayor.
Lovely. And Councillor Milner Barry, will you please present the minutes of the meeting of the Education, Transport and Appeals Subcommittee, please? Thank you. So now we're on agenda item 11. Moving on to the final agenda item is Councillors' question time. I will now invite the Chief Legal Officer to report on the Standing Order 15 questions that we've been received.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Standing Order 15 questions have been received from Councillors Gatterpaul, Chandler, Vallender, Councillor Kevin Parry, Councillor Munro, Councillor Adams, Councillor Weisinger, Councillor Begum, Councillor Butcher and Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much. So we haven't got Councillor Gatterpaul here, have we? So Councillor Chandler, do you have any supplementary requests regarding your questions on allotments?
Which question, Madam Mayor? I submitted 5.
Well, it's en bloc allotments. So if you've got a question, go for it.
I don't feel like that would be the case if it were a highways question about 2 different highways matters, but there we are. Councillor Small, thank you for your frank answers. I do appreciate it. I don't normally submit Standing Order 15, so yeah, I did appreciate those responses. I now have to prioritise which question I would ask. Bear with me. Councillor Small, in reference to statutory allotment land, if SBC doesn't consider any of these listed sites as statutory allotments, can you confirm whether they will or will not need ministerial sign-offs in order to dispose of them?
I stick by the answer I've already given, which is with it written.
Thank you very much, and please do continue asking the questions outside of this meeting.
Thanks. I'll spread them out over several meetings next time.
Councillor Vallender, do you have a supplementary question in regarding pavement parking ban trial zones?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the Cabinet member for his response. I just wondered if he would be able to provide a time frame for how long the experimental traffic regulation order will be in force, and then that will sort of then follow on to the review period afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Vallender. I've got 10:10 on the sweepstakes, so I'm going to filibuster this answer. No, seriously, I'll have to go and find that information out for you. Okay, and well done to Councillor Chandler, because I think you're the only one that actually filled all the criteria for getting one of these pavement parking ones in place. And Councillor Adams, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Vallender, do you have a supplementary regarding the dog wardens?
Yes, I do, thank you. I've got 10:30 in the sweepstakes, so I might have to do a 25-minute follow-up question.
Keep on moving on, guys. Keep on moving on.
Sorry, get distracted. I want to thank the Cabinet member for his response on this one. I'm disappointed to see that there isn't plans currently to recruit in-house. And I wanted to ask basically where the review period, whether there be a review period of the effectiveness of the contractor and whether we would look to bring those services in-house. And then whether or not the sort of police reporting side of things, does Swindon Borough Council have any responsibility on dealing with dangerously out of control dogs at all?
On the last question, no, that is completely a police matter. On the review of how our contract is going, I'll go back to officers, find out about that, and come back to you if you're happy with that. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kevin Parry, do you have a supplementary question regarding Merlin Way?
Yeah, my questions were more than one, but they seem to be merged into a block. It's a little bit disappointing, but I'll let the Merlin Way one go with regarding the speeding. Residents will be a little bit disappointed. So thank you for your answers. My question is, and thank you for acknowledging that we've asked for the lay-by to be closed on Merlin Way. So my question is, will you support us in closing that lay-by?
Well, I'll wait for the officers to come back and look at the lay-by. Can I just also say there's a bit of a typo there? It's not the CEO who's going to be visiting it. We've got CEO there. I think it's one of our enforcement officers, parking enforcement officers. So, yeah, essentially, I'd like our officers to come back to say the scope of the situation that's there, and we'll take a decision from that point.
Yeah, I was hoping it was the CEO to make sure how important it is, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Munro, do you have a supplementary question with respect to highways?
I thank Councillor Watts to give me the answers, partial answers, and I'll wait for the update at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please do carry this on after the meeting. Councillor Adams, do you have a supplementary question with respect to trading pitches?
No, thank you for the answers provided.
Thank you. Councillor Weisinger, do you have a supplementary question with respect to Highworth property assets?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Small, for what you've put in about the sites and agreeing the extended 99-year leases to Highworth. Just out of interest, would you consider talking to the property assets team about actually transfer them across to Highworth? As I said in my previous thing, that other councils have had them transferred across when the parish transfer was done. So just interested whether or not you would consider that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The answer is that a 99-year lease is going to be issued for that land, and it goes different to what Councillor Chandler's done in his initial letter. There have been sites that have been identified where the Borough Council still owns the leasehold. They are not statutory allotment sites under the Act, and so therefore that's why they've not been transferred to the Parish Council. If they were, the Parish Council would already have the land. So therefore, at the moment, the 99-year release is being processed and will be issued.
Thank you,
Thank you. Councillor Bigham, do you have any supplementary question regarding Swindon Harriers track and floodlights?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And also regarding the outcomes of the race relations motion?
Many thanks, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher, do you have a supplementary question with respect to Stanton Chase footpath?
Yes, I do. Really, to repeat the ask of the original request, which was to have a defined timeline of it, the answer I've been given so far largely matches the response I got in July from the legal officers. The residents of Stanton Chase need to know when this is actually going to happen, not a vague soon or later.
Councillor Cholsky.
All I can say is that the legal agreement is with the other party. I am not able, and I don't think I should, in all honesty, confirm a deadline on their behalf.
Thank you. And Councillor Edwards, do you have a supplementary question to wildflower coverage?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this does mean then the meeting is